Like, tell me about like on a high level. Like,
Right.
do you like from what I was reading? Like, were you seeing the enemy as this hive mind thing?
Yes.
Yeah. So that whole thing that we were talking about last time, right? Yeah.
Right.
What is their origin?
I haven't really gotten into that yet because I'm still
Yeah.
writing the second chapter,
Got it. Got it.
like,
Got it. Yeah.
in detail, and I'm actually not too sure if I want to have it as clear.
Oh yeah.
But on
Okay.
the other hand, I do realize that it is more of a satisfactory ending when an origin is disclosed.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
Luke, I'm your father. You know that
Yeah,
type of
so it's
stuff.
like, yeah, it always kind of, when you're like watching movies or something, it always feels kind of like a cop out if they're like, yeah, no, it's going to just be the mysterious origin, and you're like, oh, go fuck yourself, and I don't want to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
but
you don't know yet. Yeah,
yeah,
it was interesting kind of reading your version of it that maybe
right.
it could originate from like the deep sea.
Oh,
Yeah. Like an
oh,
invasion
that's
that's
interesting.
foreign but from Earth still, just like the virus, right? And it's
Hmm.
like this ancient kind of like race maybe or I don't know this that never interacted with the like world above until it was discovered by humans as they
Right,
explored the depths of the ocean, and then they
right.
infiltrate. You know, um, yeah, then they infiltrate.
Yeah, I've been like thinking, I've like just on the side, I've just been thinking about like, oh, how much of this world do I want to show, right?
Right.
Because like you're showing like where people live, and I actually tried to get some space travel in there as well, like the scientists you mentioned,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that they are doing like interstellar travel,
Okay.
um, like in their subplot. Like I tried to build that in as well, and yeah. But if it's about, and I've been thinking about like setting the entire thing in space too. It would have to be like moved way more into the future, though. Is what I feel.
It's like I'm starting to get interested in this like idea that it could just take place on Earth, like given like this whole deep sea origin. You know,
Right.
like yeah, it makes the story more graspable.
Grounded,
Yeah,
yeah,
like grounded. Yeah. Um,
literally.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, it doesn't make it so out there. You don't have to build worlds,
Yeah,
like you were talking about.
it's still already very very high concept though. It's still incredibly high concept.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I think what I'm really interested in is just making sure that there's like these very I think what would be super high concept is to be able to create a world with this fictitious hive mind like deep sea,
Right.
species that pretty much did mirror our world and the way that we're dealing with our crisis.
Right.
I think that would be to me super interesting, and I think people would be they'd be like, okay, wow, yeah, it'd be allowing you. I think the problem with people right now is that it's hard to step outside of like how you see things. You know,
Yeah.
that's the problem with society, and so we're all enwrapped in this whole pandemic thing in our own ways. You know, like we're more wrapped up in ourselves now, and
Right.
uh, and I think it takes something to see it from like a different perspective, from a different story, right?
Right.
But that mirrors it, that allows you to see, oh, it was hard for me to see because I was like the tree in the forest, But now that I can see it from like a bigger perspective, then yeah, then that would be
And
good.
to have that kind of observing outside of her perspective, right? If you
Yeah,
can't have an
that can
inside
knock
perspective.
somebody out of like this. I'm just wrapped up in my own opinions about
Right.
this thing. Yeah, yeah. I think that's always been kind of the power of fantasy and to a certain extent sci-fi, but more fantasy was
Yeah,
that
it's
it
like
was
stories in general, right?
yeah, yeah, stories in general, but yeah,
Yeah, stories and myths. They're trying to they're they're a tool for categorization, basically, trying to make sense of a situation that might seem nonsensical when you're like in the middle of it,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Because now you're approaching it from like a third person view. I mean, usually it's
Mm,
how it's written, and yeah, instead of being like an actor in the play.
right.
But if yeah, so that's what I'm interested in. Can there a story and a world be created where it is rich enough that we could represent, the major things that are happening and the major faults that, we're making, that these
Right.
people make, and and that the enemy is well designed to represent the bigger picture of what coronavirus does, which
Right.
is a lot more of the psychological shit that it
Right.
divides and like creates paranoia and it like it I mean it switches everyone's brain into a fight or flight. Are you familiar with fight or flight?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's a mode that every animal has, humans included, which basically is when we're
Well,
presented with danger, our
right.
our brains will inject us with adrenaline and focus our senses and alarm us and you feel that fear and you either fight you it makes you angry. Certain people it makes them angry, and certain
Right.
people it makes them afraid and they flee and they hide. And
So,
yeah, the whole world is in
that's
fight or flight right now. It's not a good place
right.
like for the brain to be.
So that's why I try to like represent the kind of symptoms of the infections as like outbursts of like basic emotions.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, because
That's
so
interesting.
it's like yeah, weird kind of like strange exaggeration or like a demolishing of barriers that people have. Basically as the symptom, and
Huh.
it becomes very unpredictable and creepy.
This would totally not fit your story, but what if it actually made people better people? It's like they took their filter off and they actually spoke their real truths and their true feelings as they were
Yeah,
turning
but the
into
thing
like
is, like,
terrible aliens.
that, yeah, but the thing is that wouldn't really fit the Corona narrative, you
No,
know?
I know. I told you it would not be, but I think it would be hilarious, right? It's
It would
like
be
this,
fun.
if this
Yeah.
thing like it attacks, and then you're gonna get turned into the hive mind, but as you're doing that, you lose like all your filters, and so you just say what you really believe, and that actually
Right.
turns the world into a better place.
That would be a fun story
It
for
turns the
for
world into a better place for 2 weeks before everyone turns into hideous aliens. You know what I mean? That would be like really freaking hilarious, right? It's like
That would be
the
funny.
whole story would be about this utopia that happens within 2 weeks, and then
Yeah.
like it just ends in one snap. Everyone turns into aliens and everything
Yeah,
goes to shit.
that would be funny. Like there was a movie with a similar kind of core philosophy, but not a comedy.
Uh,
I think it was called Invasion actually, with Nicole
Invasion.
Kidman and Daniel Craig.
Wow. Okay, I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, and it was like this alien kind of invasion that kind of turned everyone's like that made humans peaceful.
Oh, really? Oh, like,
Yeah.
but in a deceptive way or in a
No, they are actually like in a parasitic way.
Wow. But I mean, did they turn the humans like good, or was it a way of controlling them?
It is controlling them, but on the other hand, it's also like, yeah, the first time like it's peaceful in like millennia, and
Really?
yeah, and it's sort of trying to send the message like violence is a consequence of humanity, a necessary consequence of humanity,
Yeah.
and I get the message, but it just made me think of that, and it just kind of turns the film into a comedy.
Oh yeah, I know. That's like a tough thing to
It's
work
funny.
with, right? Hey, that like think about this idea, right? So like an alien species invades Earth, but
Right.
to actually help them out. And
Yeah.
and it's like at first the humans are like sending all of their like bombs and attacking it, but they find out the aliens are actually just trying to help them out. And then the
Right.
movie just like gets weird like that.
Right.
It's like, should we be attacking these aliens, or should we
Yeah.
really let them like like mind meld with us and symbiosis
Right.
with us?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's kind of a hubris to think that if any kind of intelligent being with the capability for interstellar travel would discover us, they would deem us like important or influential enough to destroy us.
Right. Yeah, that's like Fermi's paradox, right?
Right? It's like a weird kind of hubris is involved in that. Like most
Yeah, that's
likely,
very
they would just
human. Yeah.
yeah, they would just be looking at Earth and going like, "Oh,
Look
what
at
the
those
fuck is
gorillas over
this?"
there. Look at those monkeys.
Yeah,
Hey kids, yeah.
yeah,
That's here's our field trip today. We're gonna go look at the monkeys destroy themselves.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's much more plausible to think in a South Park way, where Earth is just a reality show where everyone's just gathered a bunch of species together to see the carnage like unfold.
Yeah.
That's
What if
much
that's what
more.
we are? What if that's what Earth is? It's like
That's so
modern
much more
day.
plausible.
It's like Gladiator
Yeah.
for aliens. It's like instead of the Colosseum, it's just let's just have it be a whole planet. Let's just watch them fight
Right.
each other.
Yeah, and yeah, and I really liked the final pitch they did on South Park. They were like, "No, don't cancel us. We still have like World War III to look forward to, and so on."
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
"Ugh."
Okay.
No.
Cool. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So how did we get on that tangent? Yeah. Oh, the
Emotion.
enemy. Yeah, the whole idea was to be able to parallel this. Yeah, wait.
Right.
And then
So,
to the
yeah,
coronavirus.
I made the symptoms to be like
Yeah.
emotional outbreaks, and also I kind of because of the concept of like a hive mind you had, I kind of wanted to inject this really odd, like deeply creepy feeling of like unnatural connectivity in there. Once you like get there and start meeting this enemy,
Yeah.
the first glimpses you see from of it are like moments of like odd like connectedness between
Hmm.
the people that are have been infected, and I'm not sure how that would fit thematically still until I flesh it out.
Huh.
Maybe you have some ideas about that as well. Safe, safe.
Huh? You good?
Sorry, no, I'm just I was doing Photoshop and it started like lagging a bit. I was like, nope, don't want to lose progress. Safe, safe,
Yeah.
safe.
Oh, I
Yeah,
know. I've had many times where Photoshop has crashed. It does not save your shit. It's like it's
it
not
doesn't.
like the other like regular programs where it's like, oh, here's it's been auto saved and everything's fine. No, you pretty much lose everything since your last save, which has happened to me way too many times. They need to
Me
do
too.
something
So
about that.
yeah, that's why like part of me just literally wanted to jump out of my own skin just now.
Oh my
When
god,
the
I know
program
that
started
feeling.
lagging, I was like, oh, nope, nope,
Yeah,
nope, nope.
it's like you have to set like a timer to just save. You just gotta keep saving.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like with Photoshop and ZBrush as well. It's just you have to make it a habit. of like just constantly saving.
Really?
Because otherwise you're just screwing yourself over.
Yeah, totally. So what if this alien, this hive mind species, I don't know, enemy, whatever, the bad guys, like, what if they were water based, and that they are water based, and that they infect people still by like kind of like jumping into their mouths,
Right.
like that whole, like, because I've always had that image of like this first person view of like a stream of.
That's still in the thing I sent you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, did you have a section about the enemy? About the bad guys? Did you have a section about the bad guys somewhere?
I had a short section of where one of the infected first goes into where the main body is housed, arrives at that place, is driven to go there and finally arrives there. And I have a moment of weird sort of indoctrination into the thing. And I have this other scene where a person stands in the middle of a crowd, and while he's having a weird kind of emotional meltdown, one of the view switches to first person, and one of the droplets jumps into another person.
The doppelganger. What did you call it? What did you call it? Yeah, jump. Wait, what was your word? What was your term for it?
Droplet.
Droplet.
A drop?
Droplet. Yeah.
A droplet?
Ah, interesting. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you mean in the actual text?
No, what did you just call it right now? Yeah, because it's just it's like every kind of, I don't know, they call it something, like the infected or the flood or the, they have a name for it that's really cool. So I was just wondering. But okay, wait.
I have figured out names or any terminology in a significant way.
That's totally fine. Yeah, that's fine.
But I'm really bad at naming stuff. I'm probably gonna rehash my knowledge of the Bible a lot just to name people appropriately.
That's interesting.
Because I don't like giving people characters names just willy-nilly. So
yeah, I get it. It's like you could fill in the blank later. Yeah, okay. But okay, so let's talk about for me, the bad guy is probably, to me, is one of the most interesting characters. I think to be able to design that character right is going to make or break everything.
So what I want to do is I want to nail the design, but I also want to, I'm kind of leaning towards the old Ridley Scott Alien and the Jaws movie type of approach when it comes to showing the thing. I don't want to show it until the very last moment, basically. I just want to
Oh, like the origins, you mean? The origin stuff?
No, just showing the actual thing. The entire thing, the full embodiment of the thing. I just want to show glimpses of it or the effects of it.
Yeah. Okay, in that part we differ a lot.
At the last minute, at the climax, right?
Yeah. See, in that part, I think we have different visions. This is, I can see this for you. You're definitely seeing it more as a very psychological. It's very psychological. Yes. Everything in the story that I've been reading. It's it's about psychological warfare almost,
yes.
or just it's exploring the psychologies around it.
Sorry, well, Bowie is freaking out.
Oh yeah, how's he doing?
Give me a sec.
Yeah.
Give me a sec. Bowie. Dog. I'm just gonna go into my room again.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, dog's gotta keep bothering me. Yeah.
Nah.
But yeah, I'm leaning heavily towards a psychological horror, basically.
Yeah. That's totally your style. I could see you doing that.
Also, but also it's because of the heavy psychological aspect of this entire thing. Because we don't have eventually the story is going to lead up to a fight with a giant monster.
Yeah.
Because like it needs the creature. It needs to be a creature. It needs to be something physical that you fight in a story like that. But like the entire situation we're in right now is psychological warfare, basically, and information warfare.
Yeah, it is.
More than anything. Yeah.
So, okay, so yeah. Well, tell me your idea behind that, because like, okay, so it's like a big reveal, or why not embody the enemy? Because I'll tell you, it was like for comic books in general, the whole idea of the comic book, if that's the medium that this story is going to be, is to embody intangible concepts, to give us like a form to something that we need to fight, and to see us with strength defeating it. And that's what the comic book, I think we talked about that last time, right, where you were telling me about how Superman represented kind of like our reaction to the Depression, and then Captain America was World War II. It was like it gives people a tangible visual way to say, wow, that is the enemy and I'm going to beat it up, you know?
Right.
And I just like to see it getting beat the fuck up, you know?
Right.
And that's kind of what comic books were. It was just always a big part of like comic books, was this idea of like triumph over like an enemy, you know, of some sort. And and so like I'm trying to think about like a comic that where the enemy has not been something tangible.
So you see, like I would say something like of course, like the like the Killing Joke.
I don't know that.
From the Batman.
I don't know that. Wait, what is that?
And even I would feel like even something like Watchmen.
Yeah, Watchmen is somewhat like that, but you still had Ozymandias, like he was the bad guy.
Yeah, but you lead up towards it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's the thing. Like my story is structured in a way so in the third act you lead up towards a giant battle, but the build up towards it is going to be more of a psychological thriller and social commentary than a straight up action.
So then my question is a graphic novel, like why graphic novel then, right? Like we were talking about how, you know, video games were meant to tell a certain type of story, you know, that's what they're good at. You know, movies can't do certain types of storytelling. And so why this is a graphic novel? Like, let's just go even further back. Like, so is this a graphic novel, or like because I'm trying to visualize what you would draw in this story to make it visually interesting,
right,
that you could, you know, keep making visually interesting stuff without like it, just psychological, you know. So why graphic novel? Why do you see it? Do you see it like in your head as like a visual?
A story that holds out visually, yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it, bro. Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah. Okay, fine. Then describe to me kind of like some stuff like that you're seeing. Are you seeing any sequences yet, or like?
trying to like the stuff that I worked out in detail. I work visually actually
Okay.
because I'm not a novel writer. I'm
Okay.
not a fiction writer.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
a
yeah.
visual person.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I draw it out in my head visually and try to describe it as clearly as possible.
Okay.
Um, well, so graphic novel, I would say, like, I'm trying to make a story that would be fitting for a graphic novel, so that the design elements and the visual communication tells a story that is backed up by dialogue and just a written exposition.
Mm.
If that makes sense.
I mean, it does. I don't have like I don't have like a. I mean, obviously, I don't have like a visual on it yet because,
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's super new. So yeah, I'm just wondering like if you had it, like if you had like sequences in your head that you see
Mm-hmm.
that okay, like this is how this is gonna play out, and this is how this
Yeah.
is gonna be drawn, you know,
Right.
like and that's gonna be visually interesting.
Right.
Because like I mean, the medium can change. I mean, it doesn't have to be a graphic novel if it doesn't make sense that way. Um,
What kind of medium are you thinking of?
well, it really depends on the story. I mean, that's what I mean. It's like the story kind of dictates it in some ways.
Right.
Yeah, like we're talking about. There's certain stories that wouldn't play well out on a movie. You know, like the way I
Right.
watch these game movies, it's not the real experience. Um, but yeah, yeah. Okay, but you definitely see it visually already in your head.
Yes.
Okay, describe some of that stuff to me. I'm just curious. I just want to know how you're seeing it.
Well, or what specifically?
Anything, like any, I don't know, any scene.
Okay, let me see. So, what have I written
First of
out?
all, is that Art Nouveau stuff? Did you do that stuff?
Which
The
one?
one with like the digital imprints on it.
Yes, that's my stuff.
Oh, is that stuff you did before?
Yeah, that's from like 2014 or something.
Really, I like it. I really like that. That's really cool stuff. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's really
Like,
cool.
yeah, I've been trying to like think about a visual style, and I want actually the posters I've been working on right now. To be incorporated in that aesthetic in some way.
Yeah, I honestly like
So,
when I saw like those Art Nouveau stuff. I was like, that to me is more like Project Human, kind of like tone and style. It's kind of like the
right,
mix of the old and the new, you know?
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm doing basically a continuation of that style right now. I've stayed away from computer stuff a little bit because I don't want to like because it's more about um, so mass media consumption and AI and the old stuff I did, and which I didn't think was like 100% fitting in what I'm doing right now, but it's
Hmm.
basically the same style.
Hmm.
Um, I do want to. I was thinking about like ways to incorporate that into the aesthetic of like whatever this is going to turn out to be.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm thinking of like and then I thought of Deus Ex, the game series,
Yeah,
right?
that's interesting. A lot of stuff was Deus Ex kind of based. So that you saw
Yeah,
that as kind of like the aesthetic,
yeah, because it's a mixture of Deus Ex and also Prey. It's a mixture of futuristic sci-fi and Art Nouveau or Art Deco,
like the old and the
right?
new again, right?
And
Yeah.
so I thought, like, okay, that could be like for the main setting, the main city. It could be that, and for the outskirts, it could be more like the other references I've included there, like all the designs I've drawn up.
Yeah,
But
tell
there's
me about
also
them. Tell me about these characters, the character designs. Tell me about these. Wait, did you do these the cityscapes, like the
So in that folder, right,
yeah.
in the reference folder, there are two categories, right? There are like a bunch of pictures in the reference folder,
Oh, yeah,
and then
yeah.
there's a folder called EXT ref. That's my shorthand for external references.
External. Oh, got it. Yeah. So this is your
Yeah,
stuff, and that was so. This is
yeah,
stuff
and
that
the
you've
other
done like
folder,
in previous like projects or what was
yeah.
the stuff that you like? What was the background behind this? Was this stuff that you were just doing on this like for your own kind of like like stuff, or you were doing this for other people, or?
So the like sci-fi-ish elf characters,
Yeah,
that
those
was
were
for
interesting.
a Yeah, that was for a concept. That was for a project. That was concept art for a project. The
Yeah.
other stuff is mostly for art challenges.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so that
So
I didn't know that
you,
happened. That's a cool idea.
yeah, so you are given a subject matter basically to work with,
Okay.
and a certain amount of time to work with, and it's a way of building your portfolio basically. It motivates you to work on something and publish like WIPs and stuff like that.
Really?
So I had
Yeah.
a couple of those when I was building up my digital art portfolio, a
Right.
concept art portfolio, and also just like practicing just Photoshop art stuff, like drawing from scratch on Photoshop.
Oh, yeah.
So that was those were the kinds of projects that I did, and a lot of the post-apocalyptic stuff is going to be from the Beyond Human kind of theme that we got, and
Wait, tell me
some of
about that.
it,
Wait, remind me of that. Beyond Human?
yeah, Beyond Human.
Okay, that sounds important. Remind me again what that was?
Oh, there was a art challenge subject matter theme.
Really?
Yeah.
That was for which piece that you did?
For when you see the data like characters, heroes, and villains line up,
Heroes and Villains Lineup.
and those character designs related to that was for Beyond Human.
Oh, interesting.
And it was supposed to yeah, you were supposed to do like a lineup of character designs, and some people did environment designs, and it's supposed to be like usually towards dystopian sci-fi future.
And then what? Like, who puts up these like contests and like what is there prize money or?
Yeah, there's like prizes involved, like nothing like too like I actually don't remember what the prizes were back then, but it's a website called ArtStation where people post digital art.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was one of those websites. And prizes are usually like like a Wacom tablet or stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's just a way to keep people busy, basically.
That's cool. That's really neat,
Yeah.
actually. I like this one where the kid and the dad are connected by the mask. It's really interesting, like this one especially, because I always saw that one of the defenses, like, how do you parallel the masks thing in this alternate universe that we're creating, right?
Right.
And it's interesting, kind of like your concepts of what masks could look like. There's so really interesting one with this guy connected to his kid.
Right.
That's interesting. Yeah, and what does that mask look like? And how does that mask appear in this story?
Yeah, I'm still figuring that out. Like making like a designing a face mask, because
It's
it's made
not
clear
visually,
for,
but how does it fit into the story?
Yeah, so that's what I'm leading
Oh,
towards.
sorry,
So
I'm
it's
sorry.
like, because in the story it is made clear
Yeah,
that it can be it is transmitted that way,
yeah,
right, through the mouth. And one of the like main the symptoms that show to the outside is that the mouth area turns black,
okay,
or like has a like discoloration,
yeah,
which doesn't have to be black, but like it's very well communicated visually that the main area is going to be like the mouth area,
uh-huh,
right? So introducing a mask as a protective mechanism after that, like on top of that, is not going to be as difficult, I feel, but I'm also not very sure about what kind of consequences to pull from that, though. Because a mask is just a mask that protects you against droplets and particles. Um, and I don't see many like narrative consequences from it, to be perfectly honest.
yeah, I know. So then that to me is gonna be an issue because, like, again, as I have to say, like, in the end, that is what I'm interested in, is kind of making a commentary on what we should be doing for this crisis, you know?
Right.
And so, and a lot of what I have been thinking about and what my understandings from like my bioengineering days and my MBA days and like doing the science here in this garage is just understanding like the big solution to this is gonna get people to wear masks, because already it's
Right.
like people are not wearing them. And
Right.
in California, like I went out yesterday, I'm still pretty glad that everyone, like 90% of people in like a Walmart were like wearing a mask. But like it's like the percentages go down to like 20% like in other states, you know?
Right.
And it is one of the easiest like non-freedom removing mechanisms for which we can fight this. It is like pretty much you get like huge bang for your buck. It's not like people's like freedoms are taken away like being in a lockdown, you know? And it is a big solution, and part of everything that I want to do with like Project Human is revolving around trying to get people to do the right thing. And how do
Right.
we get people to want to do that? And to me,
Yeah.
that's what I've been exploring, is like how do you, cuz the logical stuff isn't working, or it's being
Right.
countered very well by people with not such great intentions, aka our government.
Right.
And and so the rational argument is not working, and so the the feelings argument, I'm I'm believing is what needs to be made, and that
Yes.
if people can be reminded of like what they care about instead of what they've been told to care about, then maybe they'll wake up.
Right. So the thing about that is, I think what it boils down to is, uh, uh, it's two messages. One of the bigger messages is like returning to core values, like valuing
Yeah,
community,
yeah, yeah,
and valuing social responsibility above individual freedom and stuff like that.
yeah,
Those are
yeah,
core values,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
On a larger level. On a
yes,
smaller level, though, it's a practical way of wearing masks as being the most non-intrusive alternative
yeah,
to a Big Brother state.
yeah.
Yes. And I think working from that angle, that's something that can be worked into the story pretty well. Um,
That to me
like,
is like probably the most important part.
yeah, so because what I'm introducing in the story, what I'm trying to introduce is like the government and the companies group together, and they try to introduce basically a Big Brother state, where like your idea, everyone has like glasses or something like that that can just pick infected people out from the crowd, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So they try to introduce that, but there's going to be distrust and resistance from the public, and they eventually, like with the parallel to like people blowing up like 5G towers and stuff like that in Britain, for instance.
Yeah. Super dumb.
People try to destroy the infrastructure that make those kinds of devices possible. So the only responsible protection remaining becomes wearing masks, right?
Wait. How's it? Wait, what kind of masks are you seeing? Like, in this, like, in this universe that for the story,
Yes.
like, what is the mask? Were you talking about that?
Face masks.
Yeah. So they are
Yeah.
face masks. Like they look like
Yeah.
today's face masks. They're like those type of face masks.
Yes.
Oh.
Weren't we talking about face masks?
Yeah. No, I was wondering. So you're visually seeing it as like face masks.
Yes.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. Um, yeah. So just to let you know, like for me, like it's super important that the story and the universe can model well kind of what the problems are, that it reflects kind of the problems, the same problems that we face now with this pandemic as the enemy,
Right.
and like the similar things that have happened about borders shutting, about um, lockdowns, about resistance against the lockdowns, about distrust of the government, and like underestimating the enemy, um, like the
So yeah,
like that those concepts are a central part of like the story, and
right.
that the story is then to inform us in some ways about what could work in this
Right.
universe, that what they did to solve it that could also work in our universe.
Right.
Like that
So
to me
as
is
I
the
said,
interesting thing about this project.
right. So as I said, it's about transporting larger core values
Yeah.
and suggesting smaller pragmatical solutions, which is face masks. And the
Yeah.
larger core values is, as I said earlier, like valuing, social responsibility over personal freedom and yada yada
Yeah.
yada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you
Um,
have like a so what I would be interested to know is like what are your ideas for how is the story going to convey those core values?
so, um, so the main story is I have stopped writing it at chapter 2.
Yeah, I know, yeah. It's
Um,
early. So I guess that's all I'm saying is cuz like today we are just supposed to kind of like talk a little bit more. I think you said you wanted to work on it a little bit longer, like this weekend or maybe yeah, before
yeah, so what we said was we would work on it separately
yeah.
and then compare ideas today and then see if how we move forward from there.
Right, yeah. Got it. Yeah. Um yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so
So yes.
let's do that. Let's just keep uh yeah, I just wanted to make sure that point was like clear. That like that part, that stuff, like to me, like is important for that to be like worked into it. That, and so I'm interested
Right.
in that, in the universe itself. Like, is it rich enough to kind of portray these issues that we're facing? And yeah, so
So,
that's kind of
okay,
like what I'm interested in the beginning.
okay, I'm gonna try and explain it from the top.
Okay, okay.
I have main goals on the top of the
Yeah, yeah, I
document,
saw that. Yeah.
right? And what I'm trying to do with the world setting is to make an exaggerated setting
Mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm,
exaggerates certain things, like class divide
mm-hmm.
and automation. Up to a certain point, I don't want to. I'm not making it like the central part of it. It's just going to play out in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the other, and yeah, it's kind of dystopian and like post culture and post globalization. So everyone's kind of turned back to isolation and like sort of dog eat dog already. And so the divides are already there and are more exaggerated than in real life and than our reality. And once the virus, so to speak, gets introduced, the enemy is introduced, those social divides start getting bigger, and the and paranoia starts ensuing. There's oh, excuse me, resistance to whatever solutions the government is suggesting because of a deep-seated mistrust and skepticism about the government in general going on because of historical events.
Yeah.
But so everyone's going to go basically tits up at the end of chapter 2, where it's supposed to be like the darkest point. And in chapter 3, it culminates back into all the characters from the different classes coming together and finding a solution against a common enemy.
Yeah.
How exactly the third chapter is going to play out is something that I'll need to explore more.
Okay, cool. Because that's the chapter I'm gonna get interested in.
Yeah.
Because that's, yeah, that's a really, that's a key thing. Like for the story, that's the arc, right? That's like where,
Yeah, that's the climax part,
yeah,
basically,
yeah,
of the story, where everything needs to come together. I also need to
yeah,
weave in a couple of subplots to make to highlight a couple of other issues that you've mentioned last week as well.
yeah.
Which is like the kind of search for an artifact, basically, which I think I've definitively moved it to space, but I'm not 100% sure. Um, and there's another subplot about the infodemic, basically, that's going on, about conspiracy theories spreading, and people being under the impression that they have evaded control by falling into a bigger force of control.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
That whole dynamic,
yeah.
and that dynamic being a more destructive force than people realize, and it actually destroying like core infrastructures to push the plot into the darkest point.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the recovery from that is going to be what needs to transport, basically, the core values.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Cool. Cool.
So I was also interested in like comparing it to your kind of more like planetary, more
Yeah. So,
far-flung
oh yeah,
future.
yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, okay. So, yeah. So, kind of like where, like for me, like to explore things like the lockdown. I
Right.
wanted the I forget where this is from. Maybe it's from Evangelion, but where like the buildings go underground. Is that was that was that from that?
Oh,
Is that not Evangelion?
not sure.
Like it was like some one of the animes that I watched where like a whole city would just to protect itself would go
Right.
underground, you know.
Oh, right, right, right.
Yeah, and then that so that in this situation to explore these concepts of the lockdown, that's what the planet would do, and so people would be living underground in buildings in their everyone lived in high rises, but all the high rises can go underground because of
Right,
some previous war where that was like their protection mechanism to like save the cities, just go underground, and
right.
so it's like this kind of it's not the same as being up top, probably more confined, more locked down. It's like there's probably like it's a different subculture. I don't know exactly what that subculture looks like, but the culture that develops around that lockdown, where the buildings are all underground for a long so yeah, I forget what anime this is from, but yeah, the buildings would go underground, when a red alert came. That I think it was probably some sort of kaiju was like being sent, that type of anime. That's why I thought it was like I thought it was Evangelion. But I don't I think it was.
A while since I've seen that too, so I'm trying to remember.
Maybe not.
It has been a while, but
Macross maybe? I don't know actually. But
hmm,
yeah, so but these buildings were meant to go underground just to like weather like a couple of hours when there was a fight.
I
But imagine like in this situation, these buildings are now underground for a long period of time, like months. And then what type of subculture develops from that type of living, which I could see mirroring this type of isolated living that we're going through right now, where we're
right.
separated. Maybe, there's like small alleyways between buildings, like corridors and things like that, but you're very separated. It's dark. It's like, oh man, now I'm getting these like visions of like a certain game where that's what it's like. Maybe like Cyberpunk, 27 where they're kind of like that type of environment, but like
Yeah,
dark.
which is modeled after basically uh, modern Asian metropolis cities.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Um,
but like a cyberpunk style like new culture that just solely underground through extended lockdown and just
okay,
exploring kind of like the what sort of culture that becomes and like why people are having issues with it. And yeah, so there's that aspect of it.
okay,
There was also kind of like yeah, so when I saw the team, the heroes, I saw it as more of like I I saw it as more of like using blunt impact weapons, like all of them.
okay.
Usually like with any sort of like team, there would be different different types of
So
like
last, right,
yeah, like swords and like somebody's got the hammer, but there's swords, there's guns. But like for some reason, I don't know if it's actually a good idea or not. I like the idea of because this coronavirus is something that we can't see or hit. I
right,
thought it would be very satisfying to have like because that's how I see comic books. It's like it is a way to put tangible something that is intangible and to
right,
give it a face and something that you can really hate and like you'd enjoy seeing it get beaten up you know
right.
and and since this coronavirus is something that we can't see, like I wanted that ability to just hit it, with like really tremendous power. Like that's what's
Right.
gonna be the over the topness about this comic book. It's like just the amount, just like trying to emphasize how hard something is getting hit.
Right.
So I just see a lot of blunt impact weapons and even like sonic weapons, because maybe the enemy is like, since it's like a cloud, or maybe in this case water, but like some sort of like amorphous, like its natural state, it can't really live outside of host bodies, but when it does transfer, it transfers as probably like a visual cloud. But
Right.
but yeah, so sonic stuff, or waves, radio waves, or sonic stuff can like really hurt it, you know.
Like shockwave.
Yeah, like a sonic shock wave can like
Right.
disperse it, you know. um that's kind of like, you know, this idea that coronavirus is, you know, it's like it's really bad for you in like a unventilated room. Like that's like the worst place you could be. The beach is honestly one of the safer places you could be for people to gather. Like
Yeah, I was like kind of like, yeah, that's.
yeah, I
I
see, the
get
thing
it, but it's
is, yeah.
overreaction.
See, this is the
Of
thing. I agree. I think the beach thing is an overreaction. I think there has to be a compromise. As in, like, I think what we're missing right now is for somebody to come up with like some sort of guidelines as to what scientifically is at high risk activities, and what are medium risk activities, and what are low risk activities. And if we
yeah,
can
but the thing
quantify
is,
that, then we can try to minimize like big concerts where people are just crowded next to each other, and then we can put up with things like the beach, you know, because if
right,
you can't just like take everything away from everyone. We can't
right.
fight about everything.
But
It's like
I
a
think like,
compromise.
yeah, but I think that brings us back to rational thinking, because
Yeah.
making a compromise like that, it's based on rational thinking, which
But
most people are proven to be incapable of. That's why the government is not like like
yeah, I know.
not
It's
even
true.
not even yeah, not even like suggesting like the option of a compromise is of course a mistake, but even if you present people with an option for compromise like that, it's just going to confuse most people. They're not going to get it.
I
They're
know.
going to
Yeah,
say,
maybe you're right. Maybe it's a completely rational argument that's not going to work. So it's just,
yeah,
don't do it.
because they're just going to say, because already when the plans were like presented to open the economy in stages, there are people that are saying that the categories are completely arbitrary.
Yeah, it does seem like it. And I honestly think that's the fault of scientists and public health people, namely probably public health people, who are not having the balls to say, I'm going to take a stand and I'm going to say something that could endanger people's lives but could save a lot more lives, which is to actually say that, yeah, this is not as safe and this is more risky. So I can be okay with this being opened up. Right now, I think the scientists, they're unable to even take their minds down that path, because it means that, like, people will die, you know. If
Yeah, I guess.
I think
Yeah,
what they would prefer is everyone stay on lockdown, right? That is the correct public health thing to do. But
that
I
is the
think,
easiest public health thing to do. They're being lazy.
yeah, I think they are being lazy in some ways, but it also takes an element that kind of goes against what they were trained at, which is about saving lives. So it's honestly the fault of our leadership, because the public health people will tell you what needs to be done to save lives. That's what they're trained to do. They're not trained to think about what the business impacts, what the economic impacts of the stuff that they're suggesting. Maybe it is, I don't know. But then the business
No,
people
probably.
are supposed to
Yeah,
tell us about like how this is going to affect us economically. And then the
right.
government needs to take both sides and come up with a plan, right? That's the
Right.
point, because you
Which,
can't expect the public health people to factor the economy into it. You can't expect the economists to factor in the public health, because they don't understand those worlds.
right.
But so if a good leadership would have said, hey, public health people, I know that the lockdown is the best way to save lives. I get it. But my finance people are telling me that the economic crisis can kill just as many, if not more, lives,
Yeah.
right? And so I understand you don't want people to die. I don't want people to die either. It seems like people are going to die. let us just minimize like the amount of people that are going to die. And
Right.
and so come up with a goddamn rating, a way to rate every activity so that I can make a decision about what to open and what not to open. Because I will just see, is this a high risk activity and is it important? You know?
Right.
How's our leadership going to make these decisions? They are making it arbitrary. And everyone has a different concept of like what is important. I mean, it's just like willy-nilly. I don't know. It's just like it doesn't make any sense. And I guess maybe expecting people to be rational is a fault I keep making, and I just need to like,
Yeah.
not try to get hung up on stuff like that. But like, that is what we need. That's what like, I'm sure Angela Merkel is doing. Is it Angela? I think it's
She is,
Angela.
but she's dealing with a different public too.
Yeah,
Honest.
that's interesting what you said about Germans. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, because it's just generations of better quality education that's been accumulated already over there.
Right.
People are more inclined to think rationally.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're well taken care of by the government, and
Hmm.
if they are well educated by the government.
Hmm.
So that's what the US government has been neglecting for generations,
Yeah.
and now they are paying the price.
Yeah.
And also a fucking monstrosity is sitting in the White House.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure how I'm gonna like put that into the story, because every single time I try to put in like a parallel to Trump into the story, it just looks cartoonish.
Yeah, I know. You
I
know
just
what?
can't
I
make
thought the
that.
same thing. I was like, "There's no way." I honestly, I'm just gonna avoid it. Like, it's not gonna be part of the story because it's like it would just it's impossible to reflect that.
Right?
It would be
Because
it would
already
make the
cartoon.
story completely absurd. Is
Yeah.
what would happen. Okay, but see, actually, this is my take on it. My take
Right.
on it is that the president of the United States is not like like Trump, but is just a guy who's it represents America. It's just lavish and like just all about the economy, kind of guy.
Right.
And but he's one of the like that. You know how the ship from the planet that got taken over by the aliens first comes into
Right.
Earth, New Earth, and it has like the representatives of like that other planet, and they actually infect our president. It's the president. I mean, basically the leadership of that planet comes to Earth, and they're received by the White House or whatever the head of the government is, and one of the first people to get assimilated is the president. And so in the end, the president ends up working for the aliens the whole time. And that is why the president does such fucked up things that seem to make the aliens' lives much easier,
Right.
And so, yeah, I kind of bypassed the whole crazy president for a mind controlled president. That way, what he does actually makes sense, right?
But isn't that funny though, that you can't work it into
Yeah.
like a cartoon, because
It's
real
so
life
absurd.
is already a cartoon.
Yeah, it is, exactly. It's like, how can you make a cartoon of a cartoon?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I can't make it more absurd. Like, there's just no fucking way. So, like, this is another idea I had about the leadership, which I haven't gone into.
Yeah.
Maybe I can like make a mishmash out of my idea and your idea.
Sure,
Because
yeah.
that's an interesting idea too.
I like the
Because I was
water
thinking
thing.
actually,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Also.
in this kind of future that I've drawn up, I was thinking like, okay, they are separate colonies,
Uh-huh.
and they don't have a central leader anymore,
Uh-huh.
but are a group of private companies and like specialists grouped together under the supervision of an AI.
Interesting. Is the AI neutral? Is the AI part of this, or is the AI just kind of like, what? How do you see the AI?
I want to So I came to the idea of an AI to make the central government governing system to be inhuman and prioritize pragmatism
uh,
above the people's welfare. And I want the final end. So what I wanted to
that's
do with
interesting.
that concept is, at the end, with one hero character you suggested is like a mirror of a governor, basically a leader, an actual human leader,
Yeah.
to at the end replace that AI with that hero as the
Oh,
leader.
really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. You know, I really liked your idea of the AI government, is because if the AI government is a pragmatist, is a utilitarian,
Right.
right? And knows, a certain amount of people are going to have to die, and, it's for the greater good. But is smart enough, since it's an AI, to know that the only way to get humans to do it is to sort of manipulate them.
Right.
And that kind of parallels kind of what's happening. I'm not saying the government's manipulating, but but there's definitely a lot of manipulation that they do
On
to
many levels, right?
convince Americans that they are doing the right thing, you
Right.
know? And it's different. It's like it's a joke because like in an AI government, it's manipulating people because to do things because it knows that ultimately it saves the most lives, you know.
Right.
But it's insane that our government is doing it just to make themselves look good, you know. At
Right.
least that's what it seems like, unless they are controlled by AI, you know. Yeah. 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 Yeah, that's why I could not work Trump in. It had to be mind controlled.
Yeah, to be mind control. Yeah, but I also like that idea to have at least one person of a higher position be infected,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's subverting,
uh,
right?
yeah, and it like yeah, like also factoring like also starting to manipulate other people within that government
Yeah,
alongside the AI.
infecting other people. Yeah, in the government.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting
So
concept about AI government. That is kind of interesting. I wonder if that could
yeah,
work.
yeah, I feel like maybe it got installed to have like a neutral utilitarian instance as like one of the voices in the government, and the rest is filled with human specialists and also
Yeah.
like head CEOs of like the huge corporations.
Uh huh. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
So corporate interests are represented. In their mind, it would have been corporate interests are represented, the scientific specialists' interests, including humanists and like other disciplines and so on, or religion and stuff like that, that's represented. And then there is the cold, rational, utilitarian side that's represented through the AI, and that would have made an effective government theoretically. But
You're getting
like
into political science. Like you're like making like political science statements now with the story.
the entire story is a social statement, though, already.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's interesting.
and the entire world is built up to be a social statement in my mind. So
Yeah.
like and also like the divide. I am still toying with your idea of making it like a physical like barrier.
Oh,
Once
for
like
the lockdown type stuff or
yeah,
the
with the
border
lockdown.
shutdown stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do
So
you see
I
that?
have yeah, because right now I'm still toying with the idea, because right now I just have a wall, and what the idea I'm working on right now is, so they erected the wall a long time ago, like the wall to Mexico, like that idea, right? So there is
The
already a
wall. Yeah.
physical wall. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
already a physical wall in this world,
Mhm.
but normally they project an image onto that wall of the outside world, so
yeah.
people can pretend that the wall doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But once the situation hits, they decide to turn off the projection to make people feel safer.
Oh, like they want to see the walls. They don't want
Yeah.
to see the outside anymore. That's an interesting
Yeah.
statement.
So because that way they are doubly isolated. They're
Yeah,
isolated
they want to be
already, but they're
isolated.
also isolating themselves more because they want to be isolated, to
Yeah,
be safe.
that's an interesting concept. That's an interesting concept. Yeah. Yeah.
So I still might work in a way to completely bar it off, like to introduce like a force field barrier or something like that,
Oh, yeah.
because that's definitely still within the realm of technology that I'm playing with in the story. But I don't know how far that's going to go yet.
Got it.
I have managed to get in. I might change this though a little bit, but I did manage to get in mech suits into the story though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I work with mech suits.
You're like, yeah, this is gonna get in here. I don't care.
Yeah, like in a way that makes sense. I've managed
Okay.
to get in mech suits. The colony still produces trash, like
Okay.
toxic materials that they can't recycle or can't process within the walls,
Yeah.
because like the outside world is supposed to be environmentally unstable, very, very hostile towards life. So everyone outside is like already wearing full protective gear, or they die before they're 20.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
like inside, they have already a like contained atmosphere for themselves. It's like large enough, and they have like other things in place to have like their own breathable air, basically, with the plant life inside and so
Yeah.
on.
Got it.
They cannot introduce any kinds of toxins into this containment because it's so isolated. If anything gets into the air, everyone's going to croak. So they transport these toxic materials that they are necessarily producing outside the walls, and the people who are living on the outside that were barred from entering the city, so the lower classes, transport these as far away from the colony as possible.
Okay, that's what the mech suits were originally designed for?
Yeah, and because they transport them outside, and so each colony transport them as far as possible, so these meet up at a border area where basically all the toxic trash is compiled. And this area is so toxic that you can only access it via mech suit.
Okay, got it. So mech suit was a trash suit. That's interesting. Okay, so on the mech suit. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I've got the mech suits in.
Yeah. Okay, so I was thinking more about my mech suits, and so
Yeah.
so the idea was like this team of scientists they go back to old Earth. That is this weird, like, nobody ever explains what the apocalypse that happened, but the gravity's all fucked up. The mood, I think, of old Earth is of what was the word? Just a feeling of like foreignness, but peaceful in some ways, peaceful but weird, but very weird. Like something tragic had happened here, like a sad, like something tragic that has happened here. But yeah, I don't know how to describe that feeling yet. But like water going upside down, like just some place where things had gone crazy awry, a long time ago. And okay, so they were there to, for some reason, I don't know yet why, but they happen upon the mech suits. The team of them happen upon like the mech suits, and the symbol on them is like a plus, the sign, like a red cross kind of like cross. And so, but to them it doesn't mean anything. To this like new Earth, this symbol is just like an ancient symbol. because this technology was like, pre-cataclysm,
Right.
and so they bring the suits back on their ship, and so the way okay yeah so what happens is that they run into the aliens on their way back to New Earth. I don't know exactly how that happens, or whether they're attacked, or whether they run into them, but they encounter the aliens in their like. So in this case, the aliens have like a spaceship, and they have like a bodily form, right? Like I said, they infect host bodies, so they just assume the host bodies. So perhaps it's just like the host bodies of a previous race that they assimilated, you know, but like an advanced ship, and they attack the ship of scientists, and the scientist ship, it's not a fighter ship, and it's not at all matched for this, and
Right.
maybe it's because they discovered them and that they didn't want New Earth to know, because right now New Earth doesn't know, like the enemy is assimilating people within New Earth through this like ship that got in after first
Right.
assimilating the president. It is now spreading, but nobody on Earth knows. Nobody on New Earth knows that they're fighting each other about whether the enemy even exists, right? Because
Right.
they heard that distress something, but these guys came from the planet and said nothing is wrong, and that there's just a weird anomaly like preventing you guys from communicating with the planet, and they're just kind of assuring everyone that there's nothing wrong in their planet, whereas their planet had already been taken over. These people have been assimilated, but there's starting to be rumors, and of like other planets like getting like Europe, like the version of Europe, some other planet,
Right.
like acting weird, and like things are going crazy, and so people are starting to suspect that something is wrong, you know but it's not clear yet. And these people, they represent the Chinese, in some ways, like keep saying, "Oh, nothing's wrong, everything's fine," but they're mind controlled, or they're part of the hive mind, so they're doing that on purpose. But so maybe the scientists happen upon like the actual alien ship in space on their way back to like New Earth, and the hive mind realizes that they cannot go back; they have to be destroyed. You know and so they attack the ship, and the ship is like no match, so it's about to go under. And oh no, actually, what happened was so they get hailed by the alien ship. The alien ship wants to pretend like doesn't want a confrontation right now. They're just trying to like appease, or like maybe they are actually like the race of the Chinese. They encounter that ship out in space, and basically what happens is like when they get hailed, the mech suits, everything's fine. It looks like the scientists are getting duped, into believing like everything's still okay. But then like the mech suits start glowing and reacting. I don't know, vibrating maybe because it's sound now, sonic. They start vibrating, and then you can see like the discomfort. So visually, this is how I see it. Is like I see it like as the alien on the we're talking Star Trek. You've got them
Right.
hailed. They're on the big screen, and
Right.
you could see like physical discomfort from the alien, that in reaction
Right.
to the mech suits, and then like maybe a brief second where you can see the alien's true form underneath like the host body, and that's when the scientists are like, wait, something is really fucking wrong, you know
Right.
and then and that's probably when they get blown up, and then that's when they jump into the mech suits as like a last ditch effort to survive, because it looks like the mech suits are like calling them. They're vibrating, they're like reacting to the presence of like
Right.
this alien, and so they jump into it, and then they're able to survive, and then get to Earth,
Right.
get to New Earth. And so yeah, that's like the story of how the mech suits kind of choose their heroes, and I'm wondering if the characters are themselves like the leader of the mission, like the
Right.
doctor on the mission, the pilot, like, and that they already have those rules. I'm not sure yet, but like somehow the mech suits choose the people,
Yeah.
and
So
yeah,
just a thing, a detail. One one of the things about the story I have right now is it's already an age of cybernetics.
okay, yeah,
So
that's right. I saw
yeah,
augmentation.
yeah, and there are augmentations already. And I made a point in making the first hero who will end up being the leader
Yeah,
of the colony already be augmented.
he's already like big time, or like
No, just I think it's like just
just an
one arm.
arm. Yeah, like that kind of.
And
Okay.
I wanted it to be an arm because you had mentioned like the mech suit idea,
Yeah.
and I haven't gotten to the scientist part yet, to that subplot yet.
Yeah.
I only fleshed out the characters, what kind of scientists would be involved in that,
Yeah.
because that always helps me picture how a situation would go if I know who is involved.
Yeah.
Um,
Got it.
Yeah. So, because I found it interesting, it's a mech suit, but it's also the Deus ex machina of the story. It's the hand of God in the story,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. God out of machine.
So,
Yeah.
I was like I am still playing with the idea of making it an actual hand.
A hand. Oh, interesting. Mm-hmm.
So, so they find something out of it, or like it's they acquire the entire mech suit but have no way of no real way of effectively using it except for modifying it so a augmented human hand can manipulate it, so to have it be the literal hand of God in the story.
Wow, that's hilarious. That's so interesting. Yeah.
To be like meta about it.
Yeah, that's very
Because
meta. Yeah.
be like very very meta about like a certain part of it, because it's the most over the top thing in the entire story, and
Wait,
so I
what?
wanted
The
to
augmentations?
know the mech suits.
The mech suits. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I want the so that's old age ancient technology they discover in another planet or in space or somewhere, or like even in the deep sea, since we are discussing deep sea origin about the thing.
Yeah.
So the discovery could be made in deep sea, like under the ocean. That would also be like an interesting thing to explore. But as they did, they have this, they discover an ancient technology on one hand,
Yeah.
and end up combining it with the technology, mech-suit technology they already have, which
Yeah, interesting.
they were only using to transport trash before, but now, right? So,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So the way I was thinking about face masks in my story
right.
is like, since it was about how so after the scientists escape, they're able to warn the government. They're able to warn the people of New Earth that like a real force has invaded and they have taken out that whole planet.
Right.
Right, and so that's when they all go into lockdown. The buildings go under. And they put up the planetary shield. So I see that visually as kind of like it's like a force field um, around the planet, and they stop all movement, traffic in and out of the planet, because the scientists know that they're like, they seem to be able to embody like people, but they don't know much about the enemy yet. And that's because of the reaction with the mech suit. It kind of like, I imagine it visually as like liquid being like vibrated, and then you just kind of like can see beneath like the skin almost, and see like like it almost like pushes out like the gunk, and you can see like the alien underneath, whatever that thing is. And so they're able to scientists are able to understand that like this virus can hide within them. And so yeah, so they put everything on lockdown. The buildings go underground. The planetary shield goes up, and okay, and that's how they get in that state. But yeah, so the idea is they know now that the enemy is like able to hide in people, and so that's where some of the paranoia comes in, and the concepts around this pandemic is that you can't really see, you don't know who's infected. They act and they look the same, right? Like on the outside they look the same, but one guy who looks the same and the other guy next to him, one guy's infected, and so it's like, how do I show that? So you can't, physically you can't tell them apart, but maybe they the tools that get developed in the story, probably by scientists, or I'm wondering if the scientist archetype is actually a guy on the team, like the really smart science guy. Um, but somebody, either the scientist of the world or that guy, invents like a helmet that can be worn. Um, Maybe it's the archetype, scientist archetype, creates it because of his mech. Like his mech is, he's able. Oh yeah, I had that idea where one of the guys is actually able to see who's infected and who's not, but everyone else can't.
Right.
And so it actually has a lot to do with him telling people who's infected.
And who is he?
He, to me, represents the archetype of the scientist, and the mech suit is what allows him to see it. Like his mech, he learns that he's able to detect like who's who's
So,
who's inhabited, who's assimilated and who's not. So maybe he ends up developing like a type of helmet that other people can wear that can also detect it, and thus goes the push for everyone to wear this sort of helmet or face mask, or like, I don't see it as like a full helmet because I don't, visually that doesn't seem as interesting, but like some sort of like thing that covers the mouth because it does enter through the mouth,
right.
and maybe something around the eyes, because they need to. It allows them to then see. It looks like infrared or some version of that, where some an affected person is highlighted.
Yeah, I
Pretty
get it.
obviously.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
tagging, right?
yeah,
Kind of.
yeah. And that's the important thing, is that everyone needs to start wearing this so that they can see the infected and not get infected themselves. I wonder how to work in the idea that the masks should also. The thing I don't like about this idea is the primary purpose of the mask is that it should help other people. So it would be really cool if there's some mechanic where the masks only work by informing other masks or something like that, or that's like the mechanism. I want it to reflect this concept that masks, the real power of the mask is when everyone uses it, because then there's some synergy, because that's how masks work in this pandemic. Is that the sad thing is that like America didn't ever pump out surgical masks like Taiwan and Asia did. We didn't do anything
Yeah.
around masks. The first thing Taiwan did was shut down mask exports and put National Guard soldiers onto factory lines to pump out masks. That's the first thing they did when they first heard about this in December. Like they just shut the exports and they put people on masks,
Right.
and they were able to get the price of a mask. They rationed masks because everyone, like, they only got like one or two masks like a week in the beginning because they didn't have enough, so it had to be rationed, and then they just kept pumping it out, and they got the cost down. They gave people more quantity, and we didn't do any of that shit. So we actually have way worse masks. Like the research that I'm doing with my particulate counter, dude, like a cloth mask it's like a joke. it's not. It doesn't protect you very much. I
Right.
that's sadly what I found. Is it's just pretty much full of holes. I mean,
Right.
they don't look like holes to us, but to a virus, they're like caverns. You know, they're
Right.
ginormous.
Yeah, they're just windows and front doors, right?
They're bigger than that. They're like it's like to a virus that's the equivalent of like space, you know, in between like planets.
Right.
It's so goddamn small, right? So cloth masks, like they're about like 30% efficient at the best. Like surgical masks are like 80% efficient, and like N95 masks are like 95%. So like everyone in Asia is walking around with like an 80% efficient mask. That's if they're wearing it correctly, which also we're not doing, and I'm sure Asia is not doing too, but probably better than us, right?
Yeah, because like, oh man, the things
They're used
I
to.
do have to, yeah, talk about like a thing because I think it's hilarious, in a very very morbid way. Like I see people like when I'm on the metro,
Uh
for
huh.
instance. So like most of the people are wearing masks, right? But
Yeah.
some people only wear it on their mouths,
Oh yeah, I know, right?
right? And then there are people who are wearing masks when they're in the open, like at the station, and then take the mask off once they board the metro.
Wait, are you kidding me? What is the wait? What do you think the rationale is?
The rationale, I think, is I have to wear a mask when I'm outside.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Because no one
god.
fucking explained it to him. But yeah, because like logic, the rational logic is that, for instance, I am I might take my mask off even when I'm outside, when I'm out in the open, like far away from people, right?
Yeah.
When I'm just on a bike path somewhere, or like in the middle of the road with literally no one around me except cars, then I might take my mask off for a while. But once I get inside, in proximity with other people, or like you're breathing the same air in a closed air, I'm going to put my mask back on. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, yeah. Jesus
Yeah.
Christ, man.
Yeah,
Like,
some
how do
people
we
make the
fight this?
opposite.
Okay,
Some
but you
people
see,
make
the really depressing thing that I found, you from my studies
yeah.
is I'm the one day like really just kind of depressed me about this whole thing was when I found out that like just a slight hole, like not a hole, I'm sorry, like if you like some people wear the mask over their nose, but they don't actually conform the nose guard, right?
Oh, I see.
Right?
Mm.
Okay, fine. That in that sense, you're actually literally just breathing air. It's still
Mm.
okay. Let me just be clear. Everything still protects other people. Like
Mm.
I've done those studies too with the mirrors, with your
Right.
paintball gun thing. Is it prevents air from going out of you, but it doesn't
I
actually
see.
prevent viruses from coming in unless it's a good mask, and unless you're
Also,
wearing it
yeah,
properly. And
right.
the really sad thing though is first of all, I'm guarantee you that if you just leave your mask without conforming the nose guard and it's over the nose, you're literally just breathing in air. Like
Right.
none of it is actually going through the mask. And but the really depressing thing that I found is if there's even a slight if you're not conforming the nose thing like really well,
Mm.
the efficiency goes from like 80% to like 20%. Because the
Yeah.
way that fluid dynamics works is air flow will take the path of least resistance disproportionately.
Mm.
And any material that's a filter is going to be have much more resistance than just straight up air. Think of it like a concert, right? If you
Right.
have like the densely packed pit area and you're trying to get your way through to the front, like imagine if you had a choice and there you could either walk through all these people in the pit area
Yeah,
or you can
it's like a
take
dam breaking.
yeah yeah exactly, or you could take the aisleway.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to take
Right.
the aisleway instead of taking the pit, right? Because the aisle is the faster way, and that's how air works too. So I found that if you have just even a little tiny opening, tons of air goes through that because it
Right.
wants to go through the path of least resistance. So if you're not even wearing your N95 mask like really well, its efficiency goes down from like 95% to like 30% or 20%, just with
Yeah,
like a little open nose guard.
yeah, and I already thought when you were testing things out, like at my place,
Yeah.
the thing I was kind of thinking was like, there is no way people are wearing this correctly.
No.
Like, there's no fucking way, because you had to be so like specific about like pushing it down and stuff
Yeah.
like that. I was like, yeah, no one's
That's
wearing
why
it
doctors
correctly.
are fit tested for N95s.
Right.
They don't just like get them from the store and put them on. But
Right.
like they're doing it probably way over, like overboard. But like
Right.
I think most people can get it like 90% there. If they were used to doing it. Unfortunately, Americans are not used to wearing masks. Like Asia has that over us,
Yeah.
right? They have a culture of
thing is,
mask
like,
wearing.
Yeah, like I was taught to wear respirators correctly and
You did?
to test. Yeah, because I work with chemicals a lot. I have to wear a respirator all the time.
Yeah.
So I was taught to wear them correctly.
N95s?
But I had to be taught, like particle masks and then chemical
Totally
respirators.
different.
Yeah, both of them.
Wow.
And but I had to be taught to wear them correctly, how to
Yeah.
adjust like the nose thing and stuff like that, and how to
Yeah.
make sure that it fits. But I had to be taught.
Yeah.
Is the point? Like, and most people aren't taught to do that.
No.
They just buy a mask.
Yeah, and our leadership has
slap it on.
not taught us. There are no
Yeah.
PSAs out there. There's no. I
Yeah.
don't know. Are there? I don't watch
That
TV.
surprises me though.
I don't know. Actually,
but
I don't know
that's
if there
why-
are. Are there? I doubt it. I fucking
Yeah.
doubt it.
Yeah,
You know?
I doubt it too.
But it's like, so that's where I kind of like gave up the idea of trying to make an N95 mask out of household materials, because it's like, even if I made it, people wouldn't. They wouldn't. I don't know if people can be taught in this short amount of time to wear it correctly all the time.
Right.
So then it became a switch to like, okay, it's out of the question to design a mask that's going to protect the wearer. But
Right.
a mask can still protect others if everyone is wearing it. Only if it's kind of has the same properties of like herd immunity. If like
Right.
if only 10% of your population is immune to the virus, there's no herd immunity. It's like chances are you're going to keep getting it. There's a lot of virus in the air.
Right.
But if 60 to 80% of people are immune to the virus, then it gives a sort of hurt. The rest of the 40 and 20%, 20 to 40% are protected, even though they have no immunity, because there's just less virus in the air. There's just less virus around, right?
Right.
And so it's the same way with masks. It's like if only like 10% of people are wearing masks, and the masks are not good, in which case they're cloth masks and people aren't wearing it right, so they're almost as good as wearing it, just breathing air, right?
Right.
So they're not good. So if only 20% of people are wearing it, it's as literally that no one is wearing it, because it's worthless. It's absolutely fucking worthless. But if 80% of people are wearing masks, then it actually becomes incredibly powerful. Incredibly
Right.
powerful. And that's the
It's-
real challenge. Is
Yeah, it's like vaccines.
it's like exactly like vaccines. It only works when everyone does it. Well, it's different because vaccines actually protect the person too. Like, I get a vaccine that protects me, but it also protects everyone else. It has
Right.
both effects. The problem is, and I would say in Asia it has both effects too, because they're wearing surgical masks and they're wearing them probably more properly than we are. Right?
Right.
But in America, we have cloth masks, and they are not being worn properly. So the only benefit we're going to get from masks is the herd immunity benefit. The benefit of just not there being a lot of virus in the air. And
Right.
because the way a virus gets on a table and the way a virus gets on a doorknob is not because it's somewhat because you can just cough into your hand and then touch the doorknob, but just the act of you talking and even breathing puts a bunch of shit in the air that drops down onto something, right? And that surface then has more virus. The point of the mask is that it keeps most of it within the mask, and then a lot of it around it, it kind of stays around your head, kind of clings around to you. So it's not out in the environment, and it's not dropping onto tabletops 6 feet away, because that's as far as your breath can go. That's why we have this like 6 foot thing, and I've shown it. It goes really fucking far. Like I have 3 mirrors set up. It's probably about 4 feet apart, and if I cough, that thing is going past the third mirror. Right? And so that's why we have the whole 6 foot rule. But so America has shittier masks that are not being worn properly, so the only benefit we're going to get from it is if everyone wears it. And then it protects everyone else. Right? And so yeah, okay, so that's my diatribe. But like the idea is like I wanted to work that concept into this story, this universe, where somehow these masks are going to have at least some sort of synergy with other masks, in that the more people that wear them, the better the power of it is, because that is the only way we can approach masks now in America, at least. Yeah, and so I don't know, like, yeah. God, it pisses me off.
So it needs to be an effective metaphor for masks, basically.
Well, in that core value thing, like in the core value of that you're doing it, like people are wearing their masks not for themselves, but for the betterment of others.
That's the bigger picture thing. That's a larger message, right?
Yeah, that is the larger message. Yeah.
That's part of the larger message, which I think I already have a way of transporting. The thing is, like,
cool.
Having a effective metaphor for face masks specifically is going to be the next challenge.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. So you've got that's probably the harder part. Is like
the larger message.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it all comes down to the details, right? How do you actually portray it?
And I feel like transporting a core philosophy is actually not that difficult for me. I feel.
I mean, that's a good storyteller. Is the person who's done that.
Like I have no problem working in stuff like class divide, political comments and stuff like that into a story.
Yeah.
It's when it comes to specific parallels to real world, where it gets really, really tricky, I feel. Because it needs to be a specific parallel that evokes the image of a real world object, but still fit into the narrative of a completely fictional universe.
Yeah.
Because something as abstract as a philosophical concept or a social commentary is actually easier to transport because it's abstract in nature. So, you just need to get a way to transport the idea, but like an actual physical object that's so specific is actually more difficult, in my opinion.
Right, yeah.
So I'll have to have a think about that because, I feel like part of it I can work in through like the negative example of like people freaking out about about data collection and like contact tracing and stuff like that.
That's what the helmets are going to explore too.
Yeah, and so that's going to be like more the where a tool is introduced through data towers and stuff like that. What people have been blowing up and conspiracy theories have been flourishing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to work as a recognition type of mechanism. That gets destroyed basically at the end of the second act. And
Interesting.
in the third act, it's about overcoming that kind of damage that has been done through misinformation, and then coming back together to overcome the main enemy, basically.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to find a way to work in a symbol metaphor to a face mask or something similar into that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna have to
No.
think about that and explore that in the next chapter, basically.
So with these helmet things that I was thinking of, I see like to address kind of the issues of like people being wary of like Big Brother is like, the same reasons people aren't wearing are it explores like the idea that these helmets allow you to see like if people are infected, but people can see other things too. Like people can make mods for it or like can see like, oh, this person that lives here, and cross reference with Facebook and find their phone number, and and uh, and so then there's these protests against wearing of these masks because it's like this invasion of privacy, and couple that with the idea that people don't really even believe that there's like an enemy because they can't see anything, they can't see it. They're like, you're like, people are protesting because they don't think that there's an enemy because all they see is their buddies. It's like there's no evidence of any problems. And so now like they're asking us to wear this thing that allows us to like arbitrarily seemingly to identify people as like infected, when that person could be your brother. And so then they protest against it, and the way that they do it is because it's like a invasion of privacy, and it kind of tries to explore that whole aspect of the dialogue. Yeah, I don't know exactly how they end up convincing people to wear the mask, but that is the key part of the core values.
Yeah, but is that about face masks or the helmets, though?
It's really about contact tracing. That's where there's privacy concerns.
So that's about the helmets, though, right? Not the face masks.
Okay, wait. Are you talking? Okay, when you say face mask, are you talking about the future face mask or the current face mask?
Both.
Okay, so I'm just gonna keep calling it a helmet.
Don't have anything to do with contact tracing.
No, but yeah, this helmet thing is like a combination of seemingly all three of them, because it, one, protects your mouth from so that you don't get infected by the alien, but then two, it also gives you like these visual cues of like who's infected and not.
But that's no parallel to. That's going to make the parallel to face masks much harder, though.
Yeah, because the face masks, the helmets take on kind of both the face mask and the contact tracing.
Yeah, but those are two such separate things, and having those together makes everything so much more muddied, though.
I know.
It sends out some muddy message, because in the real world, those two things have nothing to do with each other, and it's only going to encourage people to associate face masks with paranoia.
Oh yeah, that is true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't want that.
It sends out muddy message. Those things need to be strictly separate, I feel.
Okay, I think the only reason I did that was because it just makes the helmets visually more interesting, and like, yeah, because otherwise then it becomes a face mask, and then it's like, that's not cool. It's like you're just wearing a face mask now. Like, it would be cool if the mask, like, I guess the idea for it being a comic book and being set in like a technological future would have some sort of like a something that's better than just a physical barrier, Yeah, but you're right. I think associating with the GPS contact tracing privacy thing kind of makes, kind of is like the wrong war to fight for like the masks.
Yeah, not for the face, like for the face masks.
Yeah,
like,
for the face masks.
I think the messages of having a physical barrier and the messages of being able to know who's infected has to be through invasion of privacy, basically. Those two need to be very separate messages and very separate topics. Otherwise, it's going to send out, as I said, a muddied message.
So maybe it's like maybe instead of mask, it's like eyes. I just want it to somehow be different, or else to me it was just like, wow, then it's just a face mask. So maybe the idea has to come from the idea that the masks or the whatever the thing is in the story only works when there's a synergy, when everyone has it on. And so whatever the mechanism of that's how the mechanism has to work. As in, the hero team needs to convince everyone to wear it, not for themselves, but for the benefit of everyone else. And then, yeah.
So the information thing, the contact tracing thing, I was planning to introduce it through a augmented reality chip or something for your eyes. Basically, you can they are handed out by the government, and everyone is encouraged to wear them, basically, and act according to the guidelines if they happen to come across someone who the device shows as being infected. So right. That's the information part and the Big Brother type thing, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
Where people are going to start doing it for a while, and then they'll see their loved ones being marked as infected, and start freaking out. Or some people are going to distrust it from the get-go and never wear it and start protesting it. And so that's that entire conflict. And that device basically stops functioning because organized conspiracy theorists tear the infrastructure down. And I made it a point I wanted to make it a point, and please correct me if you want to send a different message, because I wanted this device to be torn down because I feel it is effective but morally wrong in a modern society.
The GPS contact tracing stuff? Yeah. I know. I've been personally, I'm on the fence. It's like you look at what China has at its disposal to fight this virus. It has the ability to get its people to actually lock down for 2 months without raising a hissy fit. And
by shooting people.
Yeah, well, I've heard of those stories, but who knows, right? Yeah, they were heavy-handed, right? But they have that ability. They also have the ability to do contact tracing. It's like the way contact tracing has always been a part of public health, right? But contact tracing pre-cell phones, pre-smartphones, and public health has not really advanced too much. It's not because we don't have many pandemics and pandemic public health epidemiology, right?
Yeah, but that, and also trying to make that part of prevention more effective would automatically lead into invasion of privacy, basically.
Yeah, I know.
And I do feel very strongly about this. I feel if it comes to the freedom of expression and protecting your private information, the loss of life is actually worth it.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to make me say where I stand on that issue, I would probably go on your side. It's just that I understand the power, the public health power of that GPS contact tracing in containing outbreaks. Yes. So What we
I
have
do.
done after our lockdown is bring cases, I mean, what should happen, although we have not done it, is bring cases down to like a level where you can then do a targeted uh, approach where you
Right.
suppress and contain, right? That is
Right.
the point of why we're doing this lockdown, is so
Right.
that we can only have like hundreds of cases a day where we can have people actually quarantining. Okay, you got sick. So this is contact tracing. Public health has always had it. They sit down with a person. They go, hey, you're sick. Who have you been in contact with for the past X days that's relevant?
Yeah.
You know, the problem with this virus is it's like 14 days, you know? Like
Right.
that, if it's like
Compared to
the
normal.
flu, it's like how many people were you around for the past 2 days? You know, which is a much easier thing to remember. But this is like so long. And so these traditional ways of doing contact tracing that public health has taught us, because that's the only tool that we had prior to smartphones,
Right.
is was the best at the time. But we have this new tool with smartphones that is a huge invasion of privacy. But basically, when you walk into the hospital and you test positive for COVID-19 in China, they already have a printout of everybody that you've interacted with for the past 14 days. They have their names, their phone numbers, and their addresses. And then on top of it, China has like, I think I read like 1,800 teams of 5 in Wuhan just to do the whole quarantining. It's like, hey, they call you up, or, you know, they visit you. And
Right.
it's almost having like a social worker, you know?
Right.
And they so it's like, hey, you've been, you know, near this guy who ended up being positive, so you're gonna have to be in quarantine, please stay home. They call you every day, you know, and they just, but they have that list, you know. But when we don't even do that shit. We don't even have the 1,800 teams of 5, and we don't have the GPS contact tracing. So somebody,
Right.
sadly, probably a doctor, and that's such a waste of their time, has to sit down and be like, who have you been in contact with for the past 14 days? And then they have to go
Right.
get names, and then they have to go get phone numbers, which they might not have. I mean, the guy's cell phone might not be there, or like, you know, whatever, right? But then they have to do that manually, and then somebody has to go call them and be like, hey, you've been around somebody who's been sick. You know,
And
you should go.
there's no infrastructure for that kind of
No.
procedure, you think?
Oh, no, no. I mean, like, public health has been like one of the most gutted departments this government has done,
Yeah, that's true. That wouldn't surprise me.
right?
Yeah.
And we haven't had a pandemic in such a long time. We haven't had an
Right.
epidemic in such a fucking long time. And so we're not ready for this, public health wise. We've been completely underfunded, and it's just, we're not ready.
So,
But
yeah,
even if we
all
had that, our methodology is way inferior to China's. Way inferior, right?
yeah, because America had, like, you can say a lot of bad things about America, but they have been, no, not really that good, but compared to China, pretty good about respecting boundaries.
America, yeah,
Because China's
yeah,
next level. Like, yes, America had the whole NSA thing and yada yada yada, but
yeah.
China's next fucking
Oh
level.
yeah, China is like, it's not even
So
hiding it anymore.
what I want to show with the glasses part of thing, with the augmented reality type of thing, is to show that it is incredibly frighteningly effective,
Yeah,
but ultimately
they choose
doomed
not
to
to do it.
fail
Yeah,
and wrong.
yeah, I know.
Is what I want it to say. I do not
Yeah.
want it to be viewed as something ultimately positive.
So here's the thing. So my final thing where I settle on this in this reality, I'm not talking about like the alternate realities now, is I had hope, and I think there's some hope that it still might happen. And there's, you know, people that America, with its ingenuity, will invent a way to do contact tracing where privacy is respected. And they have, like, Apple and Google have released it, and I believe and I trust Apple, at least, that because Apple is a very security conscious, like, they're all about privacy. That's their MO. And if you can develop a technology that can do this contact tracing like anonymously, and that's my hope. And it seems like Apple and Google are trying to do it. Whether it gets adopted is a completely different story. And in America, like I don't think it's gonna happen. But I'll tell you, like I don't know what our chances are when we cannot suppress outbreaks. Like how are we going? Like the when we get like a positive patient, that person has probably infected a bunch of other people already. And those people are just going to show up at your hospital, 7 to 14 days later. No, it's really not 14 days. It's more like 5 to 7 days later, you know? But in China, they're already quarantining them so that they don't infect more people. And so, like, how are we going to actually, once this lockdown ends and we hopefully, which it's still not even looking like it's happening because our lockdown is such a joke and we're opening it, like, the idea was to bring cases down to like a manageable level so that we can start doing this quarantining and targeted approach. But it doesn't look like any of that's in the cards. So I'm just worried because we don't have tools. Literally our only tool is a fucking shitty mask that doesn't even protect us. That's the only tool we have. That is why I'm so big on the masks. Because every other tool that China has, we don't have it. We don't have a lockdown. We don't have GPS contact tracing. We don't have a public health department. So all we have are fucking masks. And we don't have testing. That is like the biggest thing that we need.
That's something that pisses me off no end. It's like, oh my god, are you still?
Still. Yeah, so it's like literally the only thing America has. The only tool in our tool belt to fight this pandemic is masks. That's how shitty of a position we're in. So it's like, at least wear the fucking masks, man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like our story needs to be a little bit more optimistic than that.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so my thing is optimistic. That's what I was trying to get to. Is like, I have faith that the engineering people that we can develop a way to do contact tracing that respects privacy, and maybe that should be worked into the story. That it's not about security or privacy. It's about both. There's a way to do both. It's not it's not mutually exclusive.
Is there truly a way to do both, though?
Yeah, no, Apple's, the way that they published it, the way that they've said, it makes sense to me, like, as a person who codes. Like, so they have like a
But how can you trust a company like Apple?
Trust me, Apple is really big on security. Everything they do is like very security. They're very focused on like protecting your own. Do you know that in iMessages, there is no way, this is based on encryption. My friend works at Apple in security, and he deals with encryption. There's no way that Apple or anyone can decrypt your iMessages. It is probably the safest messaging platform. So if the government went to Apple and said, "I need all the iMessages that you sent to Yoon Nam," right? I need all the iMessages that Jason Tongbai sent to Yoon Nam. Apple would be like, "I cannot even tell you that." They cannot literally get that information. All they can say would be like metadata stuff, like, "Oh well, it seems like a lot of characters. There's a lot of data, but like it's unencryptable, except between the two parties." And that's how Apple is designed. That is not part of Google, as far as I know yet, but I'm not sure. Actually, I haven't followed much, but like that is part of Apple, and Apple in general has always been really pro individual privacy. So they did publish a method which uses a constantly changing encrypted key that's random that each person has. And so that's how it's identified, and it changes every like so often, like in a week or like a day or something like that. And basically uses that as a way of saying, "Oh, your keys have interacted with this one key that ended up being positive. So everyone whose key interacted with that key by Bluetooth," because when you walk by a phone, they kind of handshake. Like your Bluetooth is always on. It's always like discover. It's not discoverable, but it's always like asking, "Hey, are there any Bluetooth devices around? Hey, are there any Bluetooth devices around?" You know, it's constantly kind of asking that. And so whenever you walk by near somebody, our phones actually handshake and be like, "Oh, hey, you guys are a Bluetooth device. Cool. It's good to know that you're here. I know that you're here now. That's cool. I just need to know that." You know? And so it uses that whole thing combined with the keys. So if your phones have like Bluetooth handshaked and your keys have interacted, then okay, sorry, you were near a COVID positive person, you know? But it doesn't tell you who it is, and nobody knows who it is. Yeah, that's what they designed. I don't know if people are going to use it, and I don't think they will, and I don't think the government's going to push it. So it's great that they designed it, and I believe that they designed it well, but it doesn't work if no one's using it. So the problem is that China, they probably make a software that's very traceable. They know exactly all the shit about you. They don't care about the security stuff, and they make everyone use it. And that's what they have over us. And so why the hell do we think that...
This is basically a dictatorship.
Yes.
That doesn't care about human rights.
That's the sad thing, Yoon. That's what really is sad about this whole thing. Is that what it's showing, and what maybe China is happily, you know, like, twiddling their thumbs about. That's probably the wrong phrase. But, like, that it's showing that, oh, wow, look, our form of government seems to be the correct one. The world is also seeing that story play out, where the democracies are fucking it up, and the authoritarian regimes are doing well. And so what does that say about our world? And that's what I want to not say. I want us to make a stand.
So it says actually that we will end up repeating history once again. That after a major pandemic, countries are going to turn towards increased government control. And also isolation and using specific ethnic groups as scapegoats.
Yeah.
That's what every single country has been doing after every major pandemic, ever since the bubonic fucking plague.
Really?
Like, every time the bubonic plague swept across Europe, hundreds of Jews were massacred.
Wow. That's what I mean when I say that it's not that our lives are at stake. We're going to survive this in a year or whatever, right?
It's not going to be a more grim reality.
Yeah, it's our values that are going to get killed. That we're going to lose that after this. We're going to have our lives, but we're going to lose our values. And that is why I think that this fight, why I'm so concerned about it, because it's hard for the human brain to wrap itself around because it's far away. But that destruction of our values is what is going to destroy us. And the thing is, we don't have to sacrifice our values. And the only way we can get out of this without sacrificing our values is if we actually, on our own, get our shit together without the government's help and fucking get over this. Because if only we can demonstrate that we can do that without fucking Big Brother coming in like China and telling everyone what to do, that's the only way we can show. That's the only way we can prevent the government from taking more power. Because what we're showing right now is that we need Big Brother. That's what we're showing, because we're acting like complete, idiots. And so Big Brother is obviously, if they want to, and this government seems pretty willing to do whatever, that if they want to take power and take more control, that they will, and they have. They have. And they've shut down, they're Fauci can't testify. They just released Michael Flynn. It's they're starting to show. They're just starting to take power. Because nobody can stop them. Nobody can do anything. And so if we don't get our shit together, then it's just a free ticket for them to go and just take more shit away. And so that is why for me it's like if the people do not get out of this without Big Brother stepping in, then A, we're going to die more, and then B, we're going to lose our values. They will be gone after this.
But I don't know. Like, some part of me almost thinks that the values are already gone, and everyone's just been pretending that they are there.
That's where I used to be too. It's
Yeah, and after this, it's just going to like tear down the illusion and just make us realize that there
Yeah.
are no values to lose anymore.
I know, and that's I was there, you know, like that's a very nihilistic way to think about things, and I am there, and that is probably the truth, right? But I also then realized that that is not a good place for the brain to be, and I would rather believe in a world that is not like that, in a world where we have not lost our values, than to
That's why I
yeah
like the idea of writing a story, because a story can be as idealistic as it wants to be.
right yeah
It is not constrained by reality,
right
and it maybe kind of sort of negates nihilism and cynicism up to a certain way,
yeah
which I think is a tall order, because it's a widespread thing, that nihilism and cynicism. That's why movies like Deadpool are doing so well.
yeah
But like,
yeah
yeah, I think like it would be an interesting thing to see how people react to an old-fashioned tale, because people still do react positively towards old-fashioned archetypal hero narratives like
yeah
the Marvel.
yeah. Well, the Marvel stuff has gotten way more gray area. Like Thanos, right? Is like not your archetypal evil, right? It's like, oh, some people are like, wait a minute, isn't what he's saying true?
Yeah, but like the Thanos is a very, but that's why people are saying like um, that's the best villain in MCU history,
Yeah.
because MCU traditionally has traditional archetypal villains.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even though Thanos as a villain is a fresh kind of villain that you can empathize with, the heroes are still very archetypal heroes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very clear who you're supposed to root for in a traditional sense.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
intuitively, you're going to root for the people who follow the path of an archetypal hero.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think they
So,
did a good job.
yeah, they did a very good job of subverting expectations just enough to make it interesting, but in the end, they rely on millennia of
Yeah, it does go back to humans. Yeah, I think there's something in that whole story arc of good and evil that is something that's really human that we are drawn to.
Yeah, because it's a kind of catharsis.
It's a what? Catharsis?
It's a catharsis. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Like I said, it's like
yeah.
I think people want to beat up on this enemy. Like they have a lot of pent up anger. And
And it's because like an archetypal story against in the battle of like good and evil follows the same curve of emotional satisfaction.
mm-hmm.
So you can experience catharsis by experiencing the highs and lows of the story, basically, and it's so baked in to our collective subconscious, because it's the way our emotions work, right?
Yeah.
And that's what makes an archetypal story effective and
yeah. It is something at the core
basically.
of humans.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, I think rationally, I think honestly, like, nihilism is the product of rationality. Like,
Yes.
anybody who's rational really does understand that there's no point to any of this shit. Like, there's no God that is like, cradling us and like directing things where to go. No, we are on a cold ball of dirt hurtling through the universe. Nobody gives a shit about us. And
Right.
we are the type of people that evolved from a type of species like chimpanzees that are very tribal and often war with each other. And that is what we
Right.
do. And we are just playing out evolution. And that
Right.
our struggle here on Earth is like, it's pretty much pointless. And although it feels like it's, of enormous importance, it's like our brains tell us that it's enormously important, but
Yeah. It's a quiet. It's like a quiet cough in the lifespan of the universe,
yeah,
basically.
but it's
It's
like
like the
you said,
universe going like, "Shit,"
and
is
yeah,
when the Third
that's
World
it.
War hits.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's just like a cough. The Third World War is just a cough, and it's not
Yeah.
even a cough. It's like it's so insignificant. It's like way worse than a cough. It's just like a nothing, you know. But it's like you said though. Anybody who's a true nihilist would already have committed suicide, right?
Yeah. It's the only rational conclusion that
It
you
is the
can
only rational
work
conclusion.
towards.
That's right.
So yeah,
But it's
it's
just it's not how the brain was meant to operate.
but the thing is, it's basically ideology. You could say the same thing about every single ideology. Like, what would the true consequence for a humanist be, or an idealist be? Like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you're right. It's not that the philosophy is wrong. I just think that people don't understand nihilism truly. And if you Nietzsche wasn't like, oh, everything's like everyone should just kill themselves, right? He was all about the higher man, and and
uh,
it's
it's debatable. That
yeah.
is very.
I don't know.
Uh,
No, I really don't think people understand like the real subtleties of nihilism, which is that if everything is pointless, then you can make up your own point. That's the point of nihilism. I mean, it's like
right.
understanding that there's no God directing your shit. You are free to
Yeah,
act on your own.
yeah, the most healthy thing you can pull out from nihilism is that there is no definitive idea to aspire towards.
Yeah.
So you are free to come up with your own reality, and as long as you're happy with it, hey, go with it, mate.
And that is the higher
Yeah,
man. That is what Nietzsche's higher man
yeah,
is the person who
it's
has constructed his own, I don't know, just like it almost seems like,
reality.
yeah, it's like
Yeah, because
the higher man is like somebody who understands that reality and confronts it nevertheless.
yeah, so it's truly free of. It's an ideal being that is truly free of every evolutionary baggage of any kind, would be physical or ideological,
Yeah.
which is a rational impossibility for any actual human being, which also leads it back to being an ideology,
Yeah. No, but that's what I
because
mean. I think
yeah,
it's in the struggle. Like Nietzsche would mention that there's like the people who they're the type of higher men that he called it somebody else, but that he the creatives, the people end up becoming famous writers or like artists and stuff like that. But those were the ones that you could see that were visible. But he also talked about the higher man, what he called the higher man. The other people, I think they were higher men too, but they called them something else. But the higher men were actually just the same people. It's just that the shit that they are doing is not the type of shit that is readily visible, that like gets a lot of attention. They are just struggling in their own little world, unbeknownst to anyone. But that is why it's so interesting. is because you don't know that they exist. You don't know of them, but you know that they exist. That's what Nietzsche said. These guys exist. That these higher men are out there. They're just
It's
struggling to
well,
some ideal on their
well,
own.
it's I don't know if it means that they actually exist, or like just rationally speaking, they have to be
Yeah.
existing unbeknownst to others, because as soon as they come in contact with other people and are pulled into the value system of a society or of another human being, they can't be beyond the evolutionary and historical baggage, because they are pulled into another value system again. So the only way for these people to exist is in isolation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why rationally you will have to conclude that these people exist unbeknownst to us, but it's only because, rationally speaking, they can only exist in isolation. Because as soon as they come in contact with a society, they're pulled back into the value system,
Right.
and their existence becomes a moot point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you streaming this, by the way, still?
Yeah. This shit is
Oh,
this shit is good shit, right? This shit is out there now, right?
God. Oh, God.
This shit is
I hope
out
my
there.
name is on that. Thanks.
Yeah, it is.
Fuck.
Uh,
Oh, bloody hell.
yeah. Hey, your art's on screen. That's good.
Oh, bloody hell.
That's Yunnam's art. Very cool stuff.
Yeah.
I like this Art Nouveau with like the electronic. That's really cool. I dig it. Yeah.
I had completely forgotten that I've done that because it was so long ago. I think it's a good thing to dig up for this one.
Yeah.
Just for the to establish the aesthetic of the entire thing. Like in addition to like addressing the issues that we were talking about today, the next thing for me would be to start nailing down an aesthetic.
Well, I think it's still like, let's just focus on the story. Let's just make sure that the story is like rich. The universe is rich to handle
Right,
all
the
these
aesthetic
things.
is,
It's also
it's
important.
a graphic novel.
I know.
Yeah, it's a graphic novel. The aesthetic feeds the story.
Really? Yeah, you
Or,
think so, huh?
or like the story feeds the aesthetic.
They both.
Basically.
They do both. They play off each other, right?
They play off each other, and it needs to be visually as compelling as the story. Otherwise, there would be no.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, no reason to make it into a graphic novel, essentially.
Yeah, I just think that like I agree. Like the visual aesthetic needs to be is important. I know. I know what you're saying. It's just I'm saying that like if there is some slight importance, it would be towards like getting the right story given the circumstances of why this is being made. As in this isn't, at least in my mind, is not being made for just art's sake or for the sake of telling a good story or for the sake of like, you know, a story that's rich in good old human core values. That there is a purpose to this, and that purpose is to get people to wear masks and get people to get out of their heads and see a solution from the third person point of view instead of seeing it all wrapped up in themselves.
Right, and since it's still in relation to art via my involvement,
Yeah.
since I'm not as I said, I'm not a writer. I'm not. I don't work in literary terms. I work in visual communication.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
So,
Right.
and I feel you can transport more through images universally than you can do through words. So
Yeah.
I feel nailing that aspect down is going to be as important as telling a comprehensive story of the entire situation.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But at some point I need to quit my job too, because like that job is a complete mind fuck, because everyone is into conspiracy theories.
Really? No, it's good learning. I would like to talk to them. That's the thing. It's like we need to figure out how other people are thinking.
That is true, though. Yeah, it's research for free. Research I'm being paid for.
Yeah, that's like good material there, man, because it's really hard to understand what the other side is thinking with all these like
Yeah, that is true.
right?
Yeah.
But when you can understand that somebody can believe that the earth is flat, when you can understand
Oh my
that,
God, flat earthers. I've gotten into that and it just boggles the mind, doesn't
yeah,
it?
no, it does, right? But it should boggle your mind like I mean, my best explanation for people who are susceptible to conspiracy theories is that it is a way of believing that they have something over everyone else, that they are in the know, and
Right.
it's that feeling that you get. Yeah, superiority, and it's usually from people. And I would say that the root cause of that desire is a deep-seated lack of self-esteem. It's an ego thing. It's basically your ego trying to say like, "Oh, I am important. I do know something. I know something that everyone doesn't, and thus I'm important. I'm better. I'm I'm better than you. You know, and it's like that is such a strong feeling in some people, and I think it comes down to people who themselves have bad self-esteem. That something like that gives them self-esteem, gives them like a feeling of confidence that
Right.
that is what conspiracy theorists target. They target those people.
Right.
But that's my best
Yeah.
explanation psychologically, how, because like I can't understand it on a rational level, like that the mental gymnastics you have to walk through to believe in flat earth theory, like
Right.
that one blew my mind, worse than anti-vaxxers, like. But the good thing about flat earthers is their shit doesn't affect anybody else, so I'm happy to have them be flat earthers. I don't give a shit.
Right.
Right? Go be it. Like, but if you're an anti-vaxxer, then you're putting everyone else in danger,
Yeah.
and that
Right.
that pisses me off. Like flat earth is like more absurd, but it's like, okay, whatever you want to believe, man, it's a free country,
Yeah, it's almost like fun to watch, isn't it? Because they're so scientific about it as
But it's
well.
like in that like crying, it's like that laughing but crying fetal position, right? It's like
Oh,
it's
God.
funny, but it's like, what does that say about us?
It's like, oh wait, what? Why?
Yeah,
Why?
like, are we
Yeah.
that stupid? Like,
Like,
maybe we are.
Yeah.
We are, obviously.
yeah, but the thing is, it's much more dangerous than just plain old idiocy, though.
It's
Because
way more dangerous. Yes.
Pseudoscience. They're so scientifically meticulous about it sometimes, and that's the most frightening thing, because it's a misunderstanding of how scientific thinking and investigation works.
Yeah, and yet they're happy to use their smartphones and just think that it's magic or something,
Yeah.
right? They're like, oh, I believe in science, and that and here when we can send rocket. Oh, some people don't believe we've made it to the moon, right? And it's like,
Right.
you can believe that we have an internet of connected computers and you can play video games against somebody halfway around the world. Like that,
Right.
that's just that's magic. That's not science. Oh, but like the science that explains how the Earth is round, the science that got hammered out like 500 years ago, like that's like not true anymore. Like what is, like, okay, like it boggles the mind, right? But it's like that's why I'm laughing and crying in fetal position, because it's like it's obviously something that's beyond just straight up stupidity,
Yeah, like I'm less emotional about flat earthers, as you said, because they're not really in danger.
No, they're not hurting
anyone.
anybody. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
it's
that's not hurting anyone, and that's why I'm like I'm not even upset about them. It's just utterly fascinating
Yeah.
to watch.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I like this close to like doing like a deep dive into flat earthers,
Have
like the
you?
documentary.
I
It's
haven't.
I
I
haven't
haven't.
yet. I
Yeah.
haven't yet because on some level I know it's going to hurt me emotionally.
That's what I mean. Nihilism hurts you because that's nihilism. Like, wow, we live in a world that's that. We should all just kill ourselves.
It's going to hurt me because it's going to be painful because and I say this with intentional wording that I am a believer in scientific investigation.
Right.
I believe in scientific theories, like well-proven scientific theories and well-established scientific theories, because I choose to believe it, and those are going to like deeply, deeply hurt my belief system. So I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, you know what? I can live without it. Um, because like on some level their view is as can be seen as valid as any other, because are we ever going to discover the truth?
That would be
But
the nihilistic way of thinking about it. Is that
yeah, it is. And
that's just as valid, right?
and that's why I'm saying like the believer in me is going to be emotionally devastated about this, so I'm
Yeah.
not going to do the deep dive. Um,
Yeah. Probably
yeah, because I
probably a good
still
idea.
believe. Yeah, because I still believe that the Earth is round, and I still believe that in evolutionary theory and stuff like that. Yeah,
But that just shows you like the level of
yeah,
defenses that everyone has erected around the truth.
right,
Like we're at such a this is like an impossible task, right? Is to basically get people to come to their senses again. Like
right.
we've dug such a deep hole. Like you said, we've lost our values a long time ago, and
Hmm.
we're in such a deep fucking hole that it looks fucking near impossible to get out. And maybe we should just roll over and die. But like I said,
Right.
it's just like I don't know. I'd rather not live in a world like that.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. It's like that's I think that was the key, was like realizing that although I know that's the truth, I would rather not believe that. I'd rather just not. I've been there. I believe that shit. And like you said, it's like watching a perpetual flat earth documentary. It's like
oh
that's what it
God.
is. And so it's not a
Oh
good
dear
place.
Lord.
The brain was not meant to work in that way. It's not meant to
Yeah,
live in that state.
I
So,
totally agree. Like watching an unending flat Earth documentary
yeah.
is not where my brain
Well,
needs to be.
that's pretty much nihilism, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, no, my brain does not need that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to hurt it deeply.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Oh, this is funny. Like, Facebook just literally reminded me that the high tech Art Nouveau stuff
Hmm.
that I added to that folder, I did that exactly 5 years ago.
Wow. That's
Exactly.
interesting. Exactly. Wow. At least that's when
Hmm.
you posted on Facebook.
Yeah. But I would have posted it like almost immediately.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Very
But
cool.
like,
Very cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly 5 years ago.
It's on screen right now. Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Cool.
No wonder I don't remember it. I can scarcely remember how last year went for me,
Right.
and what I produced last year. Ha ha ha.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, no
Yeah.
wonder I'm only dimly remembering that one.
Very
So
cool. Yeah.
yeah, but so the next step I think would be to continue working on the story and putting together basically a pitch deck
Yeah.
to so I'm not going to focus on like minute designs. It's just going to be about key moments to
Yeah.
visualize
Yeah.
it.
That's kind of what I'm looking for. It's like those things you listed on like the big themes, like
Right.
just key moments around those and how those get played out in the story. is what
like
I'm looking for.
big moments within the story, how they are going to play out.
Yeah. And then also on top of that, visually how you see it playing out.
Yeah, like I would say as either like in some cases like as a keyframe, just
Okay.
one frame basically,
Yeah.
sketched out, and in
Okay.
some cases as like a full storyboard basically.
Yeah.
Would be my thinking. Everything is going to be in like rougher sketches for now.
Totally.
But at least to get like a visual idea of the entire thing. Also, what I've been thinking about is how the way it's going to be published could make a very big difference. One option would be to just keep working on it for a few months and then try to put an entire graphic novel together.
Yeah.
The other option would be to release it episodically.
Yeah. Like I was telling you last time, right? Time is of extremely importance.
Yeah, something like I think like something like a web series, right? So you have like a couple of episodes for each chapter of the story, and we work out like a release schedule, so it gets out there on a much faster pace.
Yeah. Right.
So that's something to think about.
Yeah.
And because to group it into a full graphic novel could be something that we do in time.
Yeah.
But like a webtoon format, for instance, is going to change the picture layout as well. It's going to necessitate a much simpler layout, which would mean it would save time on some level.
Yeah. It still worries me. I mean, that's the biggest worry about this project. So that it's like if it just find it. I'm interested in that pitch deck because I just want to know, like, is it even possible to do? Like everything is telling me like this is too big of a project.
Like at this point, I don't know. I work in the kind of environment where someone comes to me and says, "I need 4 masks in 5 days," and I have to find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
I've had it plenty of times where you just find a way and don't sleep for 3 days and make it happen.
Yeah.
So there are ways to do things even if they seem monumental.
Yeah.
So let's discuss the pitch deck.
Yeah.
At some point next week.
Yeah. Okay.
And see how that goes. I'm either free on. I think it could be realistically ready by Wednesday or Friday.
Okay. Let's aim for Wednesday.
Whatever works best for you.
Let's do Wednesday.
So it's definitely not going to be Monday. But yeah.
Wednesday. Yeah. Let's check in on Wednesday. Yeah.
So shall we say Wednesday?
Around this time-ish, probably good for you?
Yeah.
Cool. 5. Okay. Yeah, let's just keep that. Let's just check in. Yeah. Cool.
Okay, that's Wednesday the 13th.
Right. Damn, halfway through May? Christ. Damn it. I gotta get on top of my own shit, man. I got all these videos from this stuff with like the head and like me coughing. I gotta get out there. I gotta just. Do you do video editing at all?
No.
Yeah.
you know what kind of a rig I'm working with. Do you think you can handle video
Yeah,
editing?
right. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Because I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta do some of that. I gotta get on top of that. Man, God, it's already the middle of May. It's getting there. Not there yet.
It is.
Yeah.
A lot of things are gonna, like, I hear like a lot of companies are
Oh,
gunning for opening up on the 18th.
yeah. I think by Monday. No, I think yeah. I think by Monday, honestly, is when like 47 out of 50 states have some sort of reopening. I mean, it's not like it's no one's going 100% on it, right? But it's like it
Yeah.
starts. I think it already starts on Monday.
Yeah, in California, like some stores have started opening on
Today,
Friday
Friday.
already.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And but yeah, like just companies that would not have been deemed as essential.
Yeah.
I've just been hearing from people that they're gunning for Monday, the 18th, too.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think my biggest
yeah.
fear though is that people aren't gonna go. Like they may open up and people are just not gonna go, or just enough people are not gonna go where it's not cost effective to cover rent anymore. It's like you're still paying the same overhead on your restaurant, right? But if
Right.
like you are barely making money when you're having normal occupancy rates, even if it's like 10% less, it can still put you
Oh
under.
yeah. Well, no, small businesses are going to go under no matter what.
But it's
Yeah.
really dangerous because small business employs so many people. And so I'm really
Yeah,
worried about our economy. Like I really
but
am.
that's already going to happen, and that's already happening right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So
So if we lock down again because we can't contain the outbreak, like I said, we don't have tools. The main tools
yeah,
that people have for suppression is massive testing, contact tracing, and masks. And it's like we don't do any of those. And so it just means that it can blow up into a lockdown again, and that's going to be just the nail in the coffin.
yeah, and especially because the next possible lockdown could be around the November and December time, where people
Yeah.
are supposed to be out and shopping,
Oh, but
usually to stimulate the economy.
yeah, the problem is November, December is when they think the next outbreak will be.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
going to be the next lockdown.
Right,
possibly.
you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So
Right, exactly.
when the economy
Yeah.
shuts down again around that time, where people are supposed to stimulate the economy by shopping for Thanksgiving or Christmas, it's going to hit even harder financially.
I'm worried about
And
that.
no, that's going to be a fun time. Weirdly enough, the entertainment industry probably won't suffer that much in that if that lockdown comes, because it's a slow time for the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Every year. Yeah. So production time is usually busiest around this time and in the summer, and like it dies down around November and stays quiet until January.
Mm-hmm.
So some industries won't be as effective, and as with this lockdown, some people are going to come out of this crazy rich.
Some people.
So
yeah, I think it'll be a massive net loss, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the American mentality goes, as long as I'm getting rich, there's not going to be a problem.
I think very few, though. Like, very few are going to come out of this on top. This is going to be a massive net loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
like, like Netflix will do well, and, like these, like telehealth is doing well, and Zoom is doing well, Amazon's doing well. But, most people are going to get fucked.
But also, like, some people who can afford to, who are in jobs where you can work remotely.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to pay for their commute.
Yeah.
And parking and so on.
Yeah, they're like marginally ahead, right? It's like, wow, good.
Yeah, they're marginally ahead, and for many Americans, that's going to be just the most important thing, because everyone it's a dog eat dog society. Everyone's going to be out for themselves and out for themselves only.
Yeah, I mean that's what fight or flight is. That is like the brain mode. We have a brain mode, flight or flight. When we are presented
Right.
with danger, it automatic. It's like a trigger mechanism, you know?
Yeah, it's like when you get hurt or when you
Yeah,
get
exactly. When you get hurt, that's
when you have
exactly
an
why.
accident.
You ever
Yeah.
seen a dog when it gets hurt? It'll bite its owner, like,
Yeah.
even bite its own owner because it's in such a state of like fight or flight. It's like it's been hit by a car and then an owner rushes to it and tries to bite him. Ever seen those?
Yeah, that's the same with humans
It's the
too.
same. It's the same shit, and that's why we have people here that are just angry and they're protesting, and we have people who are very scared and are hiding, and it's like that's the same shit that's playing out right now on like a macro scale. Is the whole fucking world has gone into fight or flight, and it's not a good place to make decisions.
Oh no, it isn't. Nope.
No, it's not. So it's like the key is to get people out of that state so that maybe they can listen again, they can be rational again, and yeah, yeah, that's the whole point. And the only tool we have really is masks. That's the only way, like, if somehow everyone wore a mask and we ventured out and opened our economy and people weren't getting so sick, that is going to give us confidence that we can A, survive, and B, that our economy can survive. Because we need to get out again. Because if we don't, then the restaurants are going to go out of business, and that means the waitresses are going to go out, are going to not have jobs, which means they're not going to buy shit anymore, which means that company that wanted that waitress to buy shit is not going to have money, so they're going to lay people off, and then
Yeah.
those people that's the cycle of depression. That's one of the pitfalls of economies, right?
It's
It's like,
already exists. So,
yeah, and so that's just as dangerous. And so we
yeah,
gotta, it's like we have to tackle two huge problems at the exact same time. I can see why I'm pretty fucking pessimistic about it, but it's like it's taking me all I can be to try to be optimistic about it, because
right.
that is pretty much the only way. It's not good. The nihilism path is not a fun place to be.
Yeah, maybe also not the right place to be at this exact moment. I think you can nihilism is a luxury. You can afford to be nihilistic sometimes when
Mm.
everything else is taken care of, and you
Yeah.
can just philosophize about the world. And
Yeah.
then maybe it is a right place to be as well, to see the world in a more rational light.
Yeah.
And maybe don't take it too seriously, right? And don't take yourself too seriously, because that's going to like knock you down a peg and it might even make you an honest person. But in a time of personal or social crises, it's a bad place to be. Don't
Probably.
be in that place.
Yeah.
Because it's
Probably.
not going to pull you out of a bad situation. It's not the ideology that pulls you out of a bad situation. It's the kind of ideology that can ground you when everything is going well.
Right.
So I feel nihilism is very useful sometimes, but very useless other times. And this is one of them where it's very useless.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, I agree with you. It is not useful. Yeah. Let me ask you a real quick aside, and then let's I probably have to run. You mentioned when I was picking up that head, right?
Yes.
And when I was testing the mask with the particulate counter,
Hmm.
you said something about you were surprised, like at how much I had to like finagle the mask.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
How do you mean?
Tell me about what you were surprised. So you were surprised at the idea that like the mask had to be fit really well for it to work.
That the fact that you had to like well, maybe it's because no, it was more of a like kind of a revelation, because like I'm used to putting on a mask because of my work.
Yeah.
It's like writing or like doing stuff like that you do every day,
Yeah.
or like most days,
Yeah.
where you're like, you don't really think about it. I hadn't thought about putting on a mask correctly in years.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw you do it, and I was like, oh, there's no fucking way people are doing that correctly. And that was more like a moment of like revelation where I was like, oh.
But were you
God.
surprised that like when a mask looked like it fit well, that the particle counter was still reading pretty high?
I mean, not that surprised.
Okay, so
No, really. Because, like, I mean, if you've worn respirators or masks so long,
Yeah.
you know it's not 100%. It's never 100%.
What
And you still have
surprised me
solid.
was how badly it performed. If there was just even like just that head,
Yeah.
right? It looks like it fits perfectly fine on that guy's head, right?
Right.
But like the counts were just terrible. Like it was pretty much like almost straight up air.
Right.
And that part when I learned that surprised me. That was like a really killer. It's like a buzzkill, huge buzzkill.
Yeah. So I might not have been like surprised in the sense you were surprised, because
Yeah, because you
I
use
don't really
respirators.
have a point of reference for that.
True.
I don't have a.
But I
point of
would
reference
say,
in
what would you say
Yeah.
most people, like most people, what would you say most people believe the effectiveness of their own masks is?
Oh, don't ask me that. Like, I
Yeah.
just don't know. I just don't know.
I have a
Because
feeling it's much higher than what it
it might
obviously
be.
is
It
because
actually might be. Yeah.
because I
Like,
know how
people-
low it is, so it must be higher.
Yeah, it must be. It must be higher. On the other hand, I don't really think people think about it that
They don't.
much.
Yeah,
When
I
I
don't
see
think so.
people,
That's
yeah,
why I
when
feel
see
like I
people
haven't
just-
raised a lot of awareness about it because I think it's better that we don't think about that.
Yeah, because it's such a tricky issue. It's and it's a huge issue. Like you say, um, like making a graphic novel is ambitious. That's even more ambitious.
Oh yeah, I recognize that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Right?
Because it's like it's the government's job to do it.
I know.
That's something that the government should be doing, raising awareness and teaching people.
I know. Yeah, but
But
they're
then
not,
they are
and
not
I've lost
people-
faith that they will. So they
at
won't,
this point.
right? So the only chance we have to get out of this with our lives and our values intact is if we get our shit together. And yeah, I understand that that is a gargantuan task that will probably not happen, but it's the struggle. I don't know. It's like I'd rather believe that it will than believe that it won't.
Yeah.
I understand fully how fucking ridiculous it is. Like that what has to happen, like and the chances of that happening is it's pretty low. It's really low. Yeah. But
yeah, it's like, I mean, with this kind of a project, I would say it's going to be the highest thing to reach for would be to have it be cathartic and on some level, like metaphorically informative to the few people it reaches.
But it's like the problem is when I project this out into the future, once we get over this corona shit, which we will, over time, regardless of how shitty we act, it will be over at some point.
Right.
The next shit is climate change. And
don't even think about that.
yeah, but it's the same mechanisms that are preventing us from making any progress in that front, which is a huge problem. Like a way bigger problem than coronavirus. Then if we don't solve this human problem of us not, getting our shit together and like believing in stupid conspiracy theories because we're so wrapped up in our own egos, if we don't get over that soon, like this climate change that'll just take us out. Like something will take us out because this is not a sustainable path. That is why like the stakes are really high. But it's hard to see that because it's so far in the future. But
Right.
the fight is now. The stakes are much later. You know,
Right.
because it's the same shit. The same shit that is preventing us from getting our shit together for coronavirus is the same shit that has prevented us from getting our shit together for climate change, and for whatever the
Right.
fuck else comes after that.
Yeah. Right.
And so, if
Yeah.
we don't fix this, then we're as good as dead, anyways.
Yeah. And you're like in my story, for instance, the fight against climate change never happened,
Oh, really?
so we lost.
Oh, yeah,
That's the
exactly.
thing.
Well, I think that's
Yeah.
sadly gonna
So,
happen.
yeah. So that's my view on that matter.
Yeah.
I'm already like, yeah,
Yeah.
like a foresight.
Sorry, you
Foresight
need to go
is
outside in a
not our
mech
strong
suit.
suit. Like foresight is not our strong suit.
No, the human brain
Really
wasn't
is.
meant for that. That's the thing. It's like we're asking a laptop. You're asking your 2015 computer to do something
Hey.
it wasn't meant to do, right?
Right.
And that's not. This is not. Yeah, sorry for the analogy, but it's like there's just
So
some
quick to open my
things.
computer.
Yeah, it's just some
Yeah.
things that it wasn't designed to do. Like it
Yeah.
didn't help our survival that much. It helped our survival more to prioritize short term than long term. That is what nature evolved into us. And it's true. It did help us survive. Because honestly, nature evolution doesn't select for survival. That's never been the goal of evolution. Evolution selects for survival long enough to reproduce. That is the
That
goal.
is.
So
Yeah.
evolution is about passing your genes down. And long-term
Yeah.
thinking isn't very important to do that. It is, and it still really isn't. And so our brains were highly specialized to figure out how to find food and sex and just get good at that.
Yeah, it's about
That's what our
being
computer was
selfish.
designed for. And we're asking
Yeah.
it to do all sorts of shit that it was not designed to do. And that
Yeah.
is why we are failing at these long-term things, because you're right, it was not designed to think long-term. It is a flaw
Yeah.
that our system
Like,
has that we need to recognize.
well, maybe it's a flaw. Maybe it's just.
It's not a flaw, it just is. That's what
Yeah.
helped us survive. That's what helped us fucking find more sex and pass our genes down. That is why it's selected. Is
Yeah.
because
So
short-term thinking gets you laid, apparently. Short-term
Yeah,
thinking
because
gets you laid.
yeah, evolution. I mean, of course it does. Like you've
Yeah.
been out there. Come on.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's not like, hey, I have a long-term plan for the future. I have a stable job. That doesn't get you laid.
No, it doesn't.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, well, it might get you laid in like your late 30s or early 40s.
Yeah, right?
So
Like
maybe you'll have better luck too.
it's like, yeah, I've already had my fun and now I kind of need that long
Yeah.
term has now become
Yeah.
short term because I'm already there. I'm already at the long term.
Yeah.
Oh, you've been
So,
thinking long term this whole time? I haven't, and now I'm there and I'm poorly prepared.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, no, long-term thinking is never gonna get you laid. Come on, fuck you. But
Yeah.
the thing is, it's like evolution is about being selfish. It's
It is.
survival of the fittest. It's survival of the strongest. You need to
Yeah.
be a selfish fucking asshole to do that. And so because we are animals, we will not be able to prevent what's coming.
Yeah, but see,
We
Yoon,
are
this is the shit I've been thinking about prior to this whole pandemic stuff. And I've come to this conclusion that let me just go into that real quick.
okay.
It's I agree that that's true for like lizards and reptiles. Like the brain was not sufficiently large enough to think more. Like it basically, with the limited brain power that we had up to reptiles, the best use of that brain power was just to focus on yourself. And that is where the whole lizard brain of food and sex was hammered out. Like that's when the brain became really good at just taking care of itself. Right? Taking care of its like lizards don't give a shit if other lizards like them or not, and they don't even want to hang out with them. You know,
Right.
there's nothing in their brain that has said that being social is of any importance to you passing your genes on. Probably because there wasn't enough brain power. It was a 2000 it was a 1990 it was the 1990s desktop, you know. It wasn't
Right.
that powerful. It wasn't even a 2015 laptop, you know? That was the best use of that power. Mammals came about. Mammals came about, we had larger brains, and on top of this lizard brain, they built on something that helped evolutionary fitness as well, which is a social brain. Which is that
Right.
if we work together, then we can hunt a kill and we can eat, you know? And
Right.
if we so then these animals needed a way to incentivize working together and disincentivize being like a loner, because
Right.
that is what is going to help you survive, is by being part of a group that can protect you and that can make bigger kills, you know, because you can work together. But lizards don't have that feeling. They don't like wonder why their lizard friends don't hang out with them. Only mammals do that, because our brains are designed to punish us if we're not doing that and to reward us if we are doing that, right? And so
Right.
there starts to be in evolution things that are selected that are not super selfish. And my conjecture, my hypothesis is that the human brain, what set us apart from the Neanderthals, is that we developed an even newer brain. Like the mammals developed the social brain, the lizards developed the self brain, and humans developed what I call the faith brain. And it is this thing, apparently, that overpowers the lizard brain. It is what gets us, a soldier, to believe in honor so that he would die for it. Like a lizard would die for sex, you know? And it seems to override kind of like this selfish lizard brain for a desire to sacrifice for the group. And we've
But
seen this
I,
in human history, where this is kind of become, this is the thing that makes us able to survive in a complex, large society. Because if we just cared about ourselves, it wouldn't work. We wouldn't be able to live in complex societies. Chimpanzee societies, like the largest, are only like 200 like strong. And you just can't have a very complex society with just lizard brain and social brain stuff. It's like it just doesn't work. Like you need soldiers. You need people who are like willing to do stuff that seems completely against their selfish brain but is important to the group's survival.
so I was interested in similar things about evolutionary science and, as I mentioned, evolutionary aesthetics. But what my train of thought leads towards is that the things that we do that we think makes us human and makes us higher are an illusory extension
It
of
is.
our selfness.
Yeah. I mean, because in the end, it the soldier that dies for honor isn't like unhappy doing it, right? He fully
Right. So,
believes that this is what is going to get him the afterlife and like bring him sex, like virgins in Islam, you know, like, and
so
survival.
it's about personal fulfillment in that moment and
Yes.
self-actualization.
Yes, it is.
But
Yeah.
it's still only about yourself, though.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
may you may like believe that it's for the greater good, but you are gaining something
Yeah.
by sacrificing yourself for the greater good. So it's
Yeah.
mentally still an extension, albeit
Yeah.
an illusionary one, of your selfish behavior.
Yeah,
Yes.
and that's not actually a detraction from it is it's built that way. It's our brains built it that way. Nature built it that way. It built
Yeah,
it off the backs of our lizard brain. You know, it's like
yeah,
it gives us rewards for fulfilling this type of purpose type quests. I don't know what to say. I don't have a good word for it, but like it when we sacrifice for our group, it rewards us. And we may think that it's altruism and we're doing a great thing for people, but in the end, you're doing it because your brain is saying, "Good job, do it.
yeah,
Here's a dopamine hit. Go have
yeah,
fun." You know. But that's how it was designed because I don't know. That's how if you think about like AI that's like you ever seen those YouTube videos of like an AI that learns to walk? You kind of give it like four
right,
legs and it kind of it over time it just figures it out. I mean, it's not doing that because it's like, oh, I'm contributing to science or I'm it's doing that because that is how it's programmed and it gets rewarded when it
right,
successfully walks farther. So it's getting a dopamine, it's getting a pat on the back. Every time it like walks a little bit farther, it gets a pat on the back. So the next time it does better and it gets better
right.
pats on the back. And that's just how our brains evolve too. Got we just go towards things that give us dopamine.
Yeah,
But
and the reason that I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off.
well, I mean, I'm just saying it's like once we recognize that our brains, they're not like we're not super smart. We like to think that we are. That's kind of how the brain was designed was to think really highly of itself.
Okay-ish. Yeah, we're doing okay-ish.
Yeah, we're
Like
sort of
on
smart.
animal. Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing okay.
We're
Yeah,
better than everybody else on this earth, but it's like it's not anywhere near some ideal,
basically. Yeah, it's
right?
like we're intellectually we're doing better than most,
Yeah,
debatably,
that we know of.
because
Yeah.
there's no way to measure animal intelligence
Yeah,
because
right.
we are confined to our own system of measurements in that regard, at least, or in any other regard. Um,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, um, that kind of illusory perversion, though, is I think it's because we have advanced into, as you mentioned, into mega societies
Yeah.
instead of small societies.
Yeah.
So we are actually incorporating a biological reward mechanism that probably ants and termites have.
Yeah. Yeah, except that they can't think individually. That's what's interesting.
Right, they have a completely different evolutionary path,
Yeah.
but we are putting that kind of mechanism on top of
Yes.
a mammalian brain,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. But that's what's so interesting. And that's kind of like the idea behind like Ender's Game, Ender's Shadow. I don't know if you read those, like Orson Scott Card. Sci-fi like really smart kids.
Where it's fake war, real war, fake war.
No, 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 not that. There is a real war against aliens, and the way they're hive mind, an alien hive mind, so they're incredibly
Right.
coordinated. But the way the humans beat them is the thing about us is we're individuals, and so that's our downfall. The hive mind, it's kind of like China and the U.S., right? We're individuals, and we can't get our shit together. We're just we're not coordinated. But like the whole point of it was that the synergy is when you can get individuals to act like a hive mind, then the power of that is astronomical. And that's how we beat the hive mind because a group of individuals who are able to then act as a hive mind but still be individuals is way more powerful. That's kind of the concept behind that. And so that is what is very interesting to me is that like you said, we are more than ants. Ants are only kind of like a hive mind in some ways. But we are both individualistic, but we do have the mechanisms to operate as a hive mind, and we have done so in the past. Namely, has been done through religion, is how people are programmed. But but it's a way of getting individuals to act in concert, because that's something like a mammal brain can never do. Like, you can never get a group of chimpanzees to be like, arbitrarily, let's go build houses or something, you know? Like, it's, you can't do that with them. But it's like, to get a group of people to work together towards a cause is something that humans can do. And I think we're only able to do that because we developed a different type of brain that was able to override the lizard brain, or or take it over.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, it's also one of those instances where it's like, where I'm quoting Watchmen, where it's like, what happened to the American dream? And it's like, oh, what do you mean it came true? Because we have been using that kind of like mass, like a mega society advantage in more negative ways than positive ways, though.
Yeah. Yeah, as in it's like a tool that can be used by both bad people. I mean, it's a tool being used by people.
It's a tool
Probably
being
to
used by
control other people, sadly.
to control other people.
Yeah.
What religions
It's just
kind
that.
of do,
That's
and
what
a
they're
lot
doing.
of people have been doing is brainwashing.
Yeah, but
And
it's like everyone. It's the thing that I've realized is that our brains were designed to be what you call brainwashed, but what I just call straight up programmed. It's like we're like the only animals that kind of come out not pre-programmed. You know, I don't think. See, here's the thing. I really do not believe that a cat or even a chimpanzee ever has a feeling of why does he exist here? What is his purpose? Just like a lizard never feels like, wow, why don't I have lizard friends? Because I think it was only the human brain that we developed a need to be programmed. And when we don't have a quote purpose, it's our brain telling us bad. Just like our social brain says, if you stay isolated, it says bad, don't do that. I will punish you. And just the same way we feel like when we don't have purpose, our faith brain is saying bad, don't do that, go get programmed. And that is a feature of our brain. That is, like, we were born with that type of hardware so that our society can program us, because that's what makes society function well, and that is what allows, which translates to you surviving better, which is why nature and evolution select for it. They don't really care that you have purpose or not. They just care that you have a better chance of surviving long enough to pass down your genes.
Right. Yeah, but the thing is, like, it has been like good and bad, right? Because like social programming has led to everything from amazing technological and scientific advancements, and you know, unspeakable genocide.
Right. Unfortunately, I think
totalitarian societies. So
I completely agree. It's just that it's like we cannot deny our natures. That's the thing. That's a fight that we're just gonna lose. I'm not saying it's good or bad that we have used it to have totalitarian regimes, and it's also been used to do amazing social good. It's just, it doesn't matter. It's just asking our brain to do something that it wasn't designed to do, which is to live without a purpose, is like you're just gonna have pain, spiritual pain, constantly, because it's literally your faith brain saying, bad, stop this, don't do this, you know, go get programmed. Either that or program yourself. It doesn't really care where the program comes from. It just cares that it's programmed. You know? That's why people also join gangs. It's like your social brain doesn't care. Yeah, they doesn't care what fucking family you belong in. It just rewards you when you're part of something. Right? It gives you that good feeling when you're part of like a group. And it's the same way. It's like it doesn't reward you for what purpose you choose. It's just rewards you that you get a purpose, you know? And sadly, religion is kind of like an old program that has been used to program people, and it works pretty well, and like it's compatible with a lot of people.
But yeah, it's outdated
It's
in many
outdated.
ways, but it
Yeah,
serves its purpose, and
yeah,
it's ultimately a good thing.
yeah. But yeah, I agree too. I agree that ultimately it is a good thing, in as much as that it is fulfilling a part of who we are. To deny that, I think, has been my mistake, and the
Right.
mistake that a lot of people are making is is because you're basically denying your own nature. That is
Right.
how nature has programmed us. Evolution has programmed us to want a purpose, something that I don't think other animals have. But we are programmed to want it. So if we're not getting it, then the program is just going to yell at us. And that just leads to things like depression and like, bad stuff.
Oh, widespread. That's more widespread. That's interesting idea. That's gonna help me write the story there. But
Yeah,
because it's like that's why the widespread cynicism is so dangerous right now.
it is. It's really dangerous because it's,
Because
yeah,
yeah, subscribing to an ideology has become uncool, basically.
yeah. I'm not,
Has been
yeah, you know,
yeah.
I'm a proponent of like, I mean, my ultimate conclusion from this research, this shit that I was researching before the pandemic, is
Right.
that, it, like I said, it's like your brain doesn't really care where the program comes from. So program it yourself. The thing is, you have the hardware for it, so you have to use it, and you need to use it. But you don't have to take the programming from Christianity or even your government or whatever. You have the ability to program it yourself. At least I believe that you do.
You most certainly do, because how else are you? How else would flat earthers exist?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah, because
exactly.
they have programmed it themselves.
But I mean, don't you think
I,
that a soldier's belief in honor is just as ridiculous as flat earthers?
oh,
Like
it's
if
the
you're
same thing.
truly nihilistic and rational, and you know that this guy's not going to heaven,
Yeah, it's the same exact thing,
it's the
actually.
same exact thing. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter where the program is coming from. It's just
it
that,
doesn't matter.
yeah,
Yeah,
certain programs are written better than others. I think the flat earther stuff is compatible with some people's computers, but not a lot.
yeah,
But
yeah.
religion, organized religion, has been like pretty good. It's like it's a good program that's kind of accepted by a decent amount of people, but definitely not by everyone, and it's not compatible with everyone.
Because and the thing is, like, I feel also my limitations thinking about matters like that, because I'm already thoroughly pre-programmed on
Oh, we
that.
all are
Like,
as
we
kids.
all are, because every functioning adult has been programmed in some way.
Yeah,
And I would say the more education you receive, the more rigid your programming is going to be.
that's why they do it to you
Um,
when you're kids. That's why gangs take you in when you're kids,
yeah,
because
and
that's when you program people.
I grew up in a family of academics, and I've had like, and you too. We've
Mm-hmm.
had
Yeah.
decades of education.
Yeah.
We are very, very thoroughly programmed already.
Oh, for
And
sure.
what I feel is, um, there are certain parts of my programming that I value more than others, and it's also because another part of my programming, which is morality.
Yep, that's programmed as well. Isn't that
And
interesting? That
yeah,
morality is there's no good and evil. I mean, when Adam and Eve bit from the
fundamentally,
the
yeah.
apple, it's the knowledge of good and evil that they got, and that is the true evil. Is that, I mean, that's why Islam can believe that jihad is perfectly fine and good and moral, and we can see it
Right,
as amoral. It's just
right,
nobody's right or wrong, and morality is pretty much whatever is best for the society.
right,
But if you've noticed, most societies and most religions have the Ten Commandments in some form or another, because through evolution, the religions and the tribes that survived because of the religion found out that, hey, if you don't kill your own people and you don't steal from them and you don't lie to them, generally your society is going to survive and your genes are going to
But
get
we're going to
passed
be
on.
better off. You're going to kill each other less if you do
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
thing.
So you
So,
get you get to get more laid and your genes get to pass on, and the other people who didn't have that as part of society are now evolutionarily out of the gene pool.
Yeah, because they killed each other.
Yes.
Yeah, and other thing, like I believe in well-established rules and programming software, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I do believe strongly in morality.
But in your
So-
arbitrary morality or in ultimate morality?
Well, in well-established morality.
Wow. Okay. Wait. So well established, as in kind of like religions have established it.
As in like things that are generally accepted as basic human decency.
Yeah. 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 I agree.
I feel there is such a thing,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
do believe strongly in it.
Okay.
And so it's
general
going-
stuff. General
Yeah,
stuff
and
or
it's
like
going-
highly specific things?
general stuff, I would say.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
So
Just like you shouldn't kill people, or I don't know, like how? What are we talking about?
Or just even things like, okay, so what is a morally right message to put forward with the story, for instance?
Yeah.
Like I said, I feel strongly about certain things, like
Right.
protection of personal information,
Right.
and like and it's also an act of morality to say we're going to like dedicate our time to put a message forward when no one else has told us to do so. It's not our responsibility to do it.
Right.
It's a moral decision we make.
Yeah.
And say, okay, we're going to dedicate our time, and in your case, like your personal wealth, to do something that no one else has told you to do so. It's a moral act. It's a...
See, that's where I disagree. Well, I don't know what you mean by that. That's words aren't very good at describing it. So, like we were talking about before, it really is actually a selfish act. I mean, in the end,
it's come out of the moral programming.
see, that's the thing. It's like morality was ascribed to actions later.
Right.
And I think that's the story of Adam and Eve. It's like when a lion kills a gazelle, we don't look at that and say, "Well, that's murder," right?
Yeah. Well, some people do. And,
well, I think they see it as murder when you kill the lion. But when a lion kills a gazelle, I don't think they're like, wow, that lion should go to jail. That is a terrible thing. Why would you do that? Right? But it's like, I guess maybe some people do. But,
hey, there are flat earthers, man.
Yeah. But I mean, the idea is that we arbitrarily ascribe morality to actions. And that is how we guide society towards something and away from something else. But it is pretty arbitrary. And it just happens to be that the things that stuck around were the things that actually led to evolutionary fitness. It led to the society actually surviving better. So these ideas of morality, like you shouldn't kill people, you shouldn't steal from people, are just built in because it works, you know? But in the end, I don't know if it's completely arbitrary. Like there's definitely something built into like a mammal brain where like chimpanzees, they don't kill each other. Cannibalism, for instance, is not selected in most species because the act of eating your own species would only serve it would only serve to kill you in the long run. And so most species have naturally, it's not by choice, just like you just feel aversion to the idea of like eating your own kind. That's just how the brain manifests itself. It doesn't actually say, oh, cannibalism is bad. It just makes you not think of a human as appetizing. Makes it very disgusting to you. You know?
Right.
And that's just because evolution just makes you do that.
It's all hardwired. That's
It's
one of the
hardwired.
hardwired.
Yeah, that stuff
Yeah,
is hardwired. Yeah, and I
yeah,
think you're
because
right. There are certain things in like very general concepts of morality of like not hurting people. Like there is a visceral, your brain emotionally and viscerally says bad when you hurt people. Yeah, and I think that goes to our social brain. Like there's some definite hardware
yeah, that,
programming in there.
those are like some things are definitely hardwired, especially when they become like detrimental to survival. But the thing is, like, it's like everything that people do under the mantle of morality can be ultimately seen as selfish, but these people are still doing it under the mantle of morality because they believe in it. And if you just see it in a nihilistic way, where you're going to say, oh, but they're still doing it out of selfishness, then there's no reason to do anything on the like there's no reason to follow any kind of ideology, and that's the clusterfuck we're in right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, no, I think it's even the idea that selfish is immoral. I'm just saying that like morality is pretty arbitrary in the way that it's really exists only to make society work. And it's
yeah,
like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, my thoughts on that aren't super formed yet. But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I've had like a very just interesting relationship with morality. Anyway, that sounds bad.
no,
But
it really doesn't. Yeah,
yeah, no, just
it
like
really doesn't. I don't think it does.
no, yeah, but it's I don't know. Yeah, not sure.
I don't know. I've had a very, very complicated relationship with morality and, in general, any other social conventions or ideologies until it became very, very simple.
Yeah, the hardwired
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah. It's hardwired stuff is I can generally accept as being pretty much universal.
yeah,
And on the other hand, it's like I also accept that I have programming going on that is going to make me lean towards certain principles of morality more than
sorry, sorry,
others.
sorry.
And I
Sorry.
accept those because it's part of like decades of programming
It's also
that
part of
I
your social
correct.
contract to live in a society.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
And
like
it's
the
like
social contract everyone signs implicitly if you want to live in this society,
that
you know?
it's a symbolic agreement. And
Yeah,
I'm not going to try and argue with symbolic agreement because it's just not productive in my day-to-day life, which happens to be within a society. So
yeah, yeah,
it becomes very simple at one point because if you want to be utilitarian about it,
yeah,
pragmatic about it, it's like, okay, whatever's gonna make my like emotional life and psychological life easier for me is going to be the way I choose most of the time.
yeah. And that choice multiplied by every individual in society is how those laws of morality keep society functioning. Everyone signs the same social contract, hopefully. I think what's happened
And
in the recent time is that, yeah, people aren't signing that contract or they're ripping it up. Is that if you, everyone kind of signs the same contract, this is how we're going to act. And if we abide by it, then society functions, you know? And when we don't, whether it's right or wrong, if we don't, then the society unravels. Right? If people decide that killing people is totally cool again, then society's gonna unravel. You know? Yeah. Yeah, but I've I've kind of gone away from like things like absolute morality. Or is it, like it just seems to me like it's a construct. It really is.
It's a contract.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like a legal agreement, basically.
It
You're
is,
signing something,
but backed
you're
by
agreeing
nothing.
to it.
There's literally nothing backing it. Just
Like
everyone.
any,
What's backing is that your belief that everyone else is backing it. That's the only thing that's backing it.
yeah, like any kind of legal contract.
Exactly. You're right. Like money.
Nothing
Like
is backing it.
yeah.
And it's all just a symbolic gesture. Like when
Yeah.
you're getting married to someone, you're like you're like putting trust into another person to hold that contract, uphold that contract,
Yeah.
which doesn't always work out because it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Or like signing a contract to protect your rights, um, and protect that like the fact that you're going to get your fair share doesn't mean that you're not going to get fucked over, because you still are. So because it means nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like any other kind of legal contract. It just, you're kind of accepting it, and you're also accepting that some people are not going to like honor it. But what are you gonna do?
See, that's the thing.
Like,
That's the thing about it. It's like it's that whole what are you gonna do about it is where maybe the real problem is. That maybe the problem isn't that people are not upholding the contract. Maybe the real problem is that nobody feels a responsibility to say something about it. You know? It's like, yeah, I don't know. I'm starting to realize that is maybe where the root of the problem is. The root of the problem isn't the flat earthers and the anti vaxxers. The root of the problem is pretty much everyone else that stands by and lets that happen.
well, because those people are a symptom of the problem. The root of the problem is
I think it is, yeah.
just what's the word?
Cynicism, just it's the whole what are you gonna do about it kind of thing, right? And it's
Indifference.
valid. That it's like, yeah, it's a it's not my problem, and it's not even like I could do anything about it. It's such a huge
Yes,
problem, and I'm so small, right?
it's indifference,
It's
basically.
indifference,
Is
right? It's like comes like, and I think that's one of the real problems with nihilism is that most people don't understand it, and most people just see it as a reason to be cynical, as a reason to justify their cynicism, you know?
yeah.
And so,
Because it's cool.
yeah, cool, I can care about nothing, and that's okay because I read Nietzsche, or I read some quotes by him, and he seems
Right.
cool, you know? And people think that I'm cool because I talk about Nietzsche.
Yeah.
But
And which I'm like, oh, Nietzsche is so utterly confusing.
yeah.
Because he is. I find him utterly confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to struggle for years to get like an idea, to get like a concrete idea that I can pull out of what he's writing and utilize in my ideology productively and constructively, because
Yeah.
he's so utterly confusing. And maybe because he isn't, because he is nihilistic ultimately.
Yeah, but like true
Yeah.
nihilistic, truly.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think anyone really gets there. I mean, have you read Kierkegaard, or do you know Kierkegaard?
Yes, I do.
So it's like I really dig his like ideas, the stages of life. Where you're in the aesthetic stage and the ethical stage, but I think nihilism is being in the night of infinite resignation, and
Right.
most people end up there. But like most people never get to become the knight of faith. You know, like
Right.
yeah, I think everyone, most people, they just end up as a knight of infinite resignation. They
Yeah, or just resignation is, I don't know, it's not the same as indifference. I feel it's more about
yeah
really truly not giving a shit.
yeah, that's right, That's true.
And like because like resignation means that you tried, but most people don't even try to begin with. They're
Right.
just indifferent
Indifference.
from the get-go.
Right. Indifference. Where does that come from? I mean, I think like if you go back to books like A Brave New World, it
Right?
comes from fucking Soma. So in have you read A Brave New World?
No, I don't think I have.
Aldous Huxley, dystopian future. Basically,
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah,
government controls
okay.
people by just so Soma is basically a drug, like opium, I
Yeah,
guess.
I've actually read it under a different name.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Like the
different
German
title.
version? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so it's basically it's Soma that keeps people just like, well, you know, things are bad, but I'm just gonna take this and everything will be fine. Everything will just be fine again. And I think the problem is in our society, we have a lot of Soma, and it's in the form of like Facebook and like social media and YouTube and Netflix. I'm not saying they're terrible things, but when used too much, it gives people a well, everything's terrible. I'm just gonna retreat. I'm just gonna do this thing that makes me feel good and just kind of like put my head in the sand and not think about that stuff.
Yeah,
That was the
people
whole
see this
point of
power.
Soma in A Brave New World. It just makes you not, makes you complacent. It makes
Yeah,
you,
I know.
yeah,
Soma is sarcasm
yeah, yeah. It's
because you can brush it aside as a joke.
yeah. So I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to deal with the emotional impact of this. So I'll just pretend like it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, the problem doesn't exist because the problem is a joke.
yeah, yeah. And it seems on the face value like a good way to deal with it.
Hmm.
But if you don't take it a step further, well, if you don't, yeah, I don't know, further back, but if you don't get out of that place, then it's not good for you. Yeah, your brain will not like that state.
Yeah,
And
you're going to be. I don't know. Your brain will still like it because it feels like you're making progress, but you're in reality you're just going to be stagnating.
yeah, but like I think your conscious brain will, but there'll always be like when I was very cynical, like it made sense to my rational brain completely. And
Right.
that's why it was so hard to break away from that. But for my spiritual brain, the faith brain, it was just screaming like
Mm.
this is not good, right? But it's
Right.
like I didn't really listen to that brain very much. I think most people don't. I mean, our society has kind of told us not to.
Yeah, doesn't it kind of teach you to like drain that out? And
Well, as far as we go with that is quote spiritual, not religious.
right.
That's as far as we go in that realm of like, oh yeah, I kind of feel like there's something higher than me, but I'm not gonna think about it very much because I got Netflix and YouTube and Facebook and things like
Oh, I
that.
see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah, that's
So
Soma.
it's keeping yourself busy with other things. Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
just get me into La La Land so I don't have to think about that. The fact that I have no purpose.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's like when the lockdown hit, one of like the two the first two thoughts I had were like oh, divorce lawyers are going to be
Yeah, you
so
told me about
busy after this, and secondly was like as soon if something happens to Netflix, our society is going to collapse.
that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, those were the two
I
like
mean,
main thoughts I had. I was like, oh boy.
the really bad thing is, I don't know if you know the movie Equilibrium. I'm not sure exactly how Brave New World
Yes.
ended. To oh, you've watched Equilibrium?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the
Oh, okay.
solution in that movie was to blow up the Soma factories. I mean, that was kind of like kind of based on Aldous Huxley's, the idea that they were taking this like drug that kind of suppressed their like true human natures, and I mean, you know how Equilibrium ended was with the they blew up the Soma factories, and so it's like I don't know, maybe if Netflix and Facebook suddenly disappear, maybe things will get better. Maybe we wake up.
Equilibrium is a. I never thought it as like a particularly good, ideologically sound movie. Because because it ends essentially in anarchy. It doesn't present you with a solution. It
no.
presents you with blowing shit up.
Well, I mean, it's in a Thanos type way. It's like they blew up the medicine factory, the factories that produce that drug, with the idea that it will disrupt the supply long enough for people to, they can't have the drug for like, I think you had to take the drug like every day, so it's like if they didn't have it for a week, everyone would just wake up naturally. They would just be like, oh shit, we've been brainwashed this whole time. That was the point, but they did blow it up. There was a lot of blowing up, I agree. But it wasn't like Fight Club. It wasn't just blowing up for the sake of blowing up. I mean, they blew up those factories with the purpose of, like, stopping people. It would be the equivalent if somebody, like, hacked Netflix and Facebook and like, everything and just shut it all down for, like, a month, and then people actually had to live without that stuff, and it would be like going through withdrawals for a while, just like the Equilibrium guys would eventually do it, after the movie's over. Oh shit. Well, that was an interesting conversation, and I think Yoon's phone is dead. Because, damn it, again, fuck, that was a long conversation. But there was some good shit in that conversation. Glad it's out there now. Yeah. Cool, guys. Well, that was a really interesting conversation with Yoon. We were talking about this concept of a graphic novel idea that is going to parallel the coronavirus situation, give people a tangible way to address their fears and put like a face to the enemy and a way for us to combat it and to see kind of how the story is playing out in the third person instead of being wrapped up in it as we are, to be able to step out and see a story that's similar looking and see how we might fit into that story. How we might fit into that story. That's the goal. Oh, wait, what? Oops, shit. Oh, it worked.
What happened?
I don't know. I thought your phone died again.
Well, that's what I thought too, but no, it just showed me an error message, and I'm pretty sure that Big Brother was listening. And
yeah.
Didn't
like it.
Didn't like me saying anarchy too many times.
yeah.
Lol.
Yeah. You're on the blacklist now.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna use your GPS to see if you end up in any fight clubs.
Right?
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, that was really interesting conversation. I enjoyed it. It was good. We've got some.
As always.
Yeah, very good. As always, another freaking 4-hour conversation.
Well,
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, and I think we had some good ideas for the graphic novel as well. Kind of talking it out. It's pretty helpful.
yeah. Let's definitely talk on Wednesday.
Yeah, let's do it.
What I'm gonna do is, since you have just access to the folder, I'm just gonna keep saving the Word data I have.
Cool.
And as soon as I do any sketches or something, then I'll just drop it into the folder as well.
Cool.
Just so you can take a look at it beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think sometimes the synchronization is a little bit on the slow side, on the sluggish side, the Dropbox.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, we can talk everything over on Wednesday and start moving towards producing it as soon as possible.
Okay.
Because, as you said, like, time is kind of sensitive with this one. So, yeah. Well, we'll have to see about that.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
Yeah. But we'll talk on Wednesday.
Cool. Okay, let's talk on Wednesday. Awesome.
Alrighty.
All right. Hey, have a good night. Okay. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, that was a great conversation with Yunam. She's an artist in LA. Check out her stuff. You're seeing it on the screen right now. All right. I will see you guys later. Peace.